Chapter 764. Qin Wushuang also smacked his tongue inwardly. The cost of that golem puppet was too high. Regardless of the hibiscus wood or the scarlet fire, the difficulty of acquiring them was unimaginable to ordinary people. Just with this boundless water area, it already gave people a sense of crisis. Not to mention the possibility of the legendary golden crow being resurrected. However, the rushing current valley ruins of the eastern polar region had always been known as a place full of fortuitous opportunities. Even if it was full of dangers, it could not stop the martial artist's desire to explore. Due to the weather, Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia could not enter. They could only stay on the outside. At the border area of the eastern polar region, there was a place called Rising Sun City. This Rising Sun City was known as the easternmost city of the Tianxian land. It was also the last city of the eastern polar region. After the Rising Sun City, there were no more cities. The two of them arrived at the Rising Sun City. This medium-sized city was already filled with martial artists of all shapes and sizes. Upon arriving at this eastern polar region, Qin Wushuang was much more at ease. Even if the assassins from various forbidden spiritual zones were to rush at him, Qin Wushuang would still be fearless. Anyways, at this eastern polar region, within the boundless water area, no one would dare to say they could handle it with ease. At this moment, Qin Wushuang was not worried about the rumor of the golden crow. Vividly, he hoped that the golden crow truly existed. Since the mist did not disperse, many martial artists stayed at the Rising Sun City. Although Qin Wushuang had always maintained a low-profile style, Mi Jia's proud figure and superior appearance were still extremely eye-catching. Just like a firefly in the dark, it was difficult to keep a low profile. After he Xinyu, Shuya, and the other Supreme Dao elite warriors gathered and listened to He Xinyu's narration, they all felt apprehensive. Although He Xinyu did not wish to cooperate with Shuya and the others to deal with Qin Wushuang, he had no other choice. He knew that certainly he could not deal with Qin Wushuang alone. Only by joining hands would they have the hope to subdue Qin Wushuang and seize the graceful spiritual bow. As for how to distribute the graceful spiritual bow after they had obtained it, they could only act according to the circumstances. He Xinyu had some small calculations in his stomach, but he couldn't make a decision at the moment. He could only take one step at a time. He Xinyu was a man who held grudges towards Qin Wushuang's offense. It could be said that he hated him to the bones. Since he had called Shuya and the others, of course he would not hold back and spread the information. Instantly, the news of Qin Wushuang heading to the eastern polar region had spread across the entire endless eastern sea. After receiving the news, the assassins from various forbidden spiritual zones rushed to the east like carps crossing the river. He Xinyu also made up his mind. Even if that graceful spiritual bow did not land on his head, he must not let Qin Wushuang leave the endless eastern sea alive. In the vicinity of the coiled dragon royal mansion, clearly Lei Yu and Xian Tianwu also received this news through their intelligence network. Without a second word, Xian Tianwu shouted, "Let's go to the eastern polar region. Let's see that kid fly to the sky." Lei Yu shook his head slowly and revealed a few traces of deep thought. "You don't want to go?" Xian Tianwu was somewhat annoyed. "It's not that I don't want to go. It's that there's no need to go." Lei Yu said lightly, "First, this coiled dragon royal mansion is the westernmost part of the endless eastern sea, and the eastern polar region is the easternmost part of the endless eastern sea. It's also one of the most dangerous places in the entire Tianxian land. Secondly, the news of the revival of the golden crow has been spread. Regardless of whether it's true or not, we must be on guard. Thirdly, when the news of pursuing Qin Wushuang spread out, elite warriors from various forbidden spiritual zones have gathered. There must be many people heading to the eastern polar region." Xian Tianwu was dizzy with hatred. Upon hearing Lei Yu's analysis, she was also speechless. Yet, she must admit that Lei Yu's words made sense. From the coiled dragon royal mansion to the eastern polar region, it could be said that it crossed the east and west of the entire endless eastern sea. To make it there, even if they were to sprint at full speed and not consider any external factors, it would take 1 or 2 months. If there were any delays along the way, it would be possible for it to take 3 months. After 3 months, by the time they made it there, most likely it would have been too late. Now, that kid is the target of public criticism. This time, he will die for sure since his whereabouts were exposed. I am afraid that graceful spiritual bow will be taken away by others. I am truly unwilling. Xin Tianwu gave a long sigh. However, Lei Yu shook his head. No, that kid is extremely strange and cannot be speculated with common sense. Initially, when we surrounded the aspiring throne mountain, didn't he also escape easily? That Qin Wushuang usually has the means to escape in such situations. He might not die. Strange lights flashed across Xin Tianwu's eyes. It's best if he doesn't die. Since he escaped to the coiled dragon royal mansion, we will be waiting for him. Lei Yu chuckled. If he was chased all the way here and suffered severe injuries, that would be the best. We will pick up a great bargain. We will wait at ease for an exhausted enemy. Suddenly, Xin Tianwu frowned slightly, and a strange color was revealed from her eyes. A trace of ecstasy emerged from the corner of her mouth. Look, someone is coming out from the royal mansion. Lei Yu immediately fixed his gaze and saw that near the coiled dragon royal mansion, figures scuttled out one after another. The leader was an extremely beautiful young girl. Behind her, there were 3 young people. Although they had different appearances, clearly they were not disciples of the Dragon Clan. Did you see anything? Xin Tianwu asked with a smile. Lei Yu laughed eerily. They are human martial artists. The strongest one is only at the refined void martial stage. The others are all at the perfect stage. Certainly, they are disciples of the Stargaze Palace. It's impossible for the coiled dragon royal mansion to have disciples with such low strength. Clearly, they do not have any dragon presence. Lei Yu analyzed. Should we make a move? Xin Tianwu asked. No rush, let's observe. For these 4 people, there are 3 men and 1 woman. Judging from their appearance, they do not resemble Qin Wushuang. That woman should not be Qin Wushuang's sister. 4 Qin Wushuang's most important people, besides a few of his relatives, is his secular teacher, Tan Zhongqi. Clearly, these 4 are not Qin Wushuang's family. Lei Yu proposed to observe first. However, Xin Tianwu said, we have waited here for 1 or 2 months and have gained nothing. It's rare for these people to sneak out. If we do not make a move, I am afraid we will not have this chance in the future. Lei Yu still shook his head. Or else, if they did not encounter any danger when they came out this time, certainly they will let down their guard. In the future, there will be more opportunities. Let's see if we can catch the big fish. Xin Tianwu gave a long sigh. Big fish, if the big fish does not leave the house, how can we catch them? If we cannot wait for the big fish, we will catch these small fish only. While they were talking, a young man on the other side laughed straightforwardly. Senior Sister Zhou Fu, you have been bored in the royal mansion for so long. Indeed, you feel refreshed after coming out for a walk. Sure. Clearly, that girl was Qin Wushuang's senior sister Zhou Fu. She made a shushing motion. Junior brother Zhao, are you trying to startle the teachers? Of course, that junior brother Zhao was Zhao Muji. He still appeared spirited and high-spirited as he chuckled. The teachers are being too careful. Around the coiled dragon royal mansion, who would dare to behave atrociously? For the other 2, one was from the line of Tan Zhongqi, Zhou Fu's junior brother Lu Teng. The other one was from the line of the 5th Palace Master, Miao Zhongxia. These 2 were core disciples of the Stargaze Palace who had been instigated by Zhou Fu to come out to relax. Currently, these 4 were the backbone of the Stargaze Palace. Among the young generation, besides Wei Yi, they were the next in line. The 4 of them sneaked out of the coiled dragon royal mansion. Just when they were about to walk out, a figure scuttled out from the inside and stopped before Zhou Fu and the others. The figure of this person flew as fast as lightning. With a tall and straight figure, he carried himself confidently. Indeed, he was senior brother Wei Yi. Wei Yi stopped before everyone. 4 junior brothers, without the permission of the palace masters. Where are you guys going? Zhao Muji chuckled. Senior brother, we are just going to stroll around, it's all right. As long as there is the slightest movement, we will return to the defense formation. Nothing will happen. Wei Yi said with a determined attitude. Go back. Zhou Fu bit her lips lightly. Senior brother, please make an exception. Don't you see that everything is fine now? Just let us stroll for a while. How about an hour? Wei Yi frowned lightly. Not even 15 minutes. Junior brothers and sisters, if you still think of me as your senior brother, then go in quickly. Zhou Fu mumbled. Senior apprentice brother, you are too rigid. It's stuffy to stay at the mansion all day long. Just let us go out and relax. It's not a big deal. Wei gave a light sigh. Junior sister Zhou Fu, junior brother Wu Shuang, is under the same teacher as you. You don't want to drag him down, right? Zhou Fu said strangely. How could I drag junior brother Wu Shuang down? Have you ever thought about what if someone with ulterior motives kidnapped you and me and threatened junior brother Wu Shuang to submit? With junior brother Wu Shuang's personality, what would he do? Zhou Fu stuttered and said, could it be such a coincidence that we met junior brother Wu Shuang's enemy as soon as we came out? Wei Yi said seriously, the Jianghu is a vicious place. It's not like the Stargaze Palace has never suffered such losses. Everyone just bear with it. When the Qin clan has settled the situation at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, good days will come for the Stargaze Palace. Zhou Fu approved of Qin Wushuang. Hearing Wei Yi's words, she nodded. All right, then we will wait a little longer. Wei Yi nodded. I also hope that junior brothers and sisters, there won't be a next time. If I didn't see you guys sneaking out today, I am afraid that you guys would have already gone far away. Zhou Fu chuckled. All right, senior brother, I know that the teacher sent you to watch us. I promise that it will not happen again, all right? Wei Yi laughed and waved his hand. Go in. Just as he was speaking these words, suddenly, Wei Yi's expression changed. In a flash, Wei Yi initiated the power from his entire body, and a burst of violent wind knocked Zhou Fu and the others back. He said with a hurried tone, Go in. Zhou Fu and the others only felt pushed by this power and could not help but bump into the inside. When Wei Yi looked again, a gigantic palm materialized in front of him and grabbed him by the waist. Wei Yi roared, Go in. Don't come out. I'm tired after a busy day. Just this one chapter. For the next few days of this month, it might explode. However, Old Bull promised everyone that it will explode for a few days at the end of the month. The plan for the 100 chapters this month will only be more and not less. Please rest assured, Old Bull will arrange the time reasonably. As long as Old Bull does not go to the building materials market, he will strive to explode. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 765. Initially, Zhou Fu and the others were still somewhat confused. Through Wei Yi's roar, they immediately woke up and knew that the situation had changed. Zhao Muji was the first to react as he said to Zhou Fu and the others, Go in and inform teacher and the others. Remember, do not come out. After he finished speaking, his body shook and the pair of magistrate brushes in his hand rumbled at that giant illusory palm without any regard for his own safety, shooting lights at a rapid speed. For this attack, clearly he held the spirit of facing death with equanimity. Despite knowing that it was impossible, he still did it. He also held the hope of getting lucky and hoped to disperse that welcoming giant palm to save Wei. However, the difference in power was too great. Although it was only a small movement, when a Transformation Supreme Dao elite warrior made a move, it was not something Zhao Muji could compare to. Regardless of Zhao Muji's heroic move, it would be like a moth throwing itself into the fire. Xian Tianwu turned her hand seal slightly, and a burst of invisible binding power bound Zhao Muji firmly. She pulled with 2 fingertips. Like a kite, Wei Yi and Zhao Muji were dragged over directly. Initially, when Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu heard Wei Yi's admonishment, their hearts went cold. Hearing Wei Yi's tone, it was impossible for these people to walk out of the mansion. If they were to let them walk in this time, they would not know when they would be able to. Xian Tianwu made a prompt decision and immediately made move. Fortunately, Wei Yi had natural spiritual roots and possessed superior reaction speed. He sensed the danger immediately and pushed Zhou Fu and the others in. They were also lucky to be far away from Xi and Tianwu, and Wei Yi was next to Zhou Fu and the others. Or else, even if they could react, most likely they would not have the time. After all, the speed of a Supreme Dao elite warrior was not something they could imagine. When Wei Yi saw Zhao Muji rush out, he roared angrily, "Junior brother Zhao, what are you doing out here?" Zhao Muji said with a bitter smile, "Senior brother, you fell into the trap to save us. If I escape back, it would be meaningless to live. This is called risking my life to accompany a gentleman. It was our willfulness that harmed eldest senior brother. As a brother, I can't save eldest senior brother. I can only live and die with him." Wei gave a long sigh. "Why are you doing this? It's better to be one person than two people." Xian Tianwu said with a cold sneer, "These two bastards are pretending to be loyal before me, right?" Although Zhao Muji didn't know who it was, he knew that it was someone he couldn't afford to offend. Although he could not afford to offend them, Zhao Muji had always been proud and never knew what fear was. He scolded, "You old and ugly woman, where did you come from?" Although Xian Tianwu was a martial artist that had lived for more than 1,000 years, she had always relied on her beautiful appearance. When Zhao Muji called her old and ugly, immediately she burned with anger. Just as she was about to flare up, Lei Yi reminded her, "Fellow Taoist Tianwu, now is not the time to be angry with an ant like him. We have to leave first since we are behaving atrociously in front of the coiling dragon mansion. Otherwise, there will always be a lot of trouble in their domain." Xian Tianwu was apprehensive as she asked, "Where are we going? Should we return to the human countries or wait at the endless Eastern Sea?" "The situation at the endless Eastern Sea will certainly become more chaotic. We can wait at the border of the human countries." To the martial artists of the human countries, and even to the majority of the martial artists in the Xian Yuan Mound, the barriers that led to the endless Eastern Sea were insurmountable. However, before elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Dao stage, these three barriers could almost be ignored. When they went in and out, they were safe and sound and could come and go freely, almost without lingering. These two figures dashed towards the border of the endless Eastern Sea directly. Inside the coiling dragon mansion, when the palace masters received the news at the same time, they were greatly astonished. All of them rushed out. Currently, Wei Yi and Zhao Muji could be said to be the top two disciples of the Stargaze Palace. Earlier, Zhao Muji's strength was slightly inferior to Zhou Fu. After all these years of hard work, Zhao Muji's potential was greatly stimulated. He had already surpassed Zhou Fu and was only second to Wei Yi. To the Stargaze Palace, it would definitely be a tremendous loss if these two major disciples had met with mishap. When the 5 palace masters gathered and heard the cause, all of them revealed an incredibly grave expression. Especially Zhong Wuyin, the 3rd palace master, he was even more furious. Tan Zhongqi had always been protective of Zhou Fu and loved her dearly. At this moment, he shook his head helplessly. "Fu Heir, since Wu Shuang is not here, you should be the role model of the Green Cloud Palace. Perhaps I have been too lenient with my teaching to you guys. Do you know how much trouble you've caused this time?" Now, Zhou Fu's beautiful face had also changed color. She bit her lips tightly, and deep regret was written across her beautiful face. LV Tong said with a weak voice, "Teacher, for this matter, it's not only senior sister Zhou's fault. We are also responsible. If we didn't talk about playing..." LV Tong, no need to speak. If it weren't for Fu Heir's willful invitation, you guys would not have had such intentions. "Fu Heir, tell me, how should I punish you?" Zhou Fu was on the verge of crying, yet she still held back her tears stubbornly. She said seriously, "Teacher, regardless of how you punish me, I will accept it. Even if you want me to die, I will not frown." At this moment, Zhuo Buqian, the head palace master, gave a long sigh. "Anyways, second, what's the use of pursuing the responsibility now? For this matter, we cannot blame them. With the temperament of young people, I am afraid we would be the same when we were young." Tan Zhongqi gave a helpless sigh. Now, the most urgent matter is how to get Wei Yi and Muji back. From their description, the enemy is as fast as a ghost. I am afraid they are at least elite warriors of the Supreme Tao. Even if the Stargaze Palace sends out all our forces, we would not be their match. Tian Jixing, the fifth palace master, gave a long sigh. All palace masters were apprehensive and felt a wave of helplessness. Zhuo Buchuan said, "Everyone, no need to be too sad. The Stargaze Palace does not have such a powerful enemy. The enemy captured those two for the purpose of threatening Wushuang. I'm afraid their initial target was not Wei, Yi, and Muji. They just happened to run into them." Wushuang, Zhong Wuyin's expression became even more terrible. "This way, the enemy is from the Heavenly Emperor Gate. What should we do?" Lung Qiuqi, the fourth palace master, said, "The Heavenly Emperor Gate is going back on their words. In the past, they said they're not allowed to make a move against the human countries. Now they're going back on their words? Fourth, don't forget, we are at the endless Eastern Sea. Even if the Heavenly Emperor Gate made a move, they have a great excuse. Darn it, this Heavenly Emperor Gate is truly shameless." Zhuo Buchuan waved his hand. "Everyone be quiet. If they captured those two to deal with Wushuang, at least for now, those two will not be in danger. Then what should we do? Wait? Or inform Wushuang?" Zhuo Buchuan shook his head with determination. "We cannot inform Wushuang. If we inform Wushuang now, it will only throw him into confusion. For the Heavenly Emperor Gate to restrain their fear of Wushuang, what are they afraid of?" Tan Zhongqi said, "Of course they are afraid of Wushuang's growth speed and potential. Yes, now they dare to make trouble for Wushuang because they know they can still deal with him. When the day comes when Wushuang grows to the point where the Heavenly Emperor Gate cannot shake him, they will not dare to make a move." Zhuo Buchuan said, "Therefore, we must not inform Wushuang and disturb his mind." Zhong Wuyin said with a bitter smile, "We can hide it from Wushuang. However, if the Heavenly Emperor Gate did it, they will think of ways to spread the news. By that time, it would be difficult for Wushuang not to hear it. Third brother is right. There's no way to hide it. Paper can't wrap fire." While they were speaking, the sound of footsteps came from the outside. Qin Lianshan, the Shi Ming, and a supervisor of the Coiled Dragon clan rushed over together. The supervisor was very apologetic. "Everyone, I am truly ashamed that such a thing has happened in the vicinity of my Coiling Dragon royal manor. Everyone in my manor is deeply frightened and uneasy. I have already passed this news to the young miss and the young master." Zhuo Buchuan immediately said, "Don't say that. We have disturbed you at the Coiled Dragon royal mansion. Now that we have caused trouble for you, of course we should apologize." That supervisor said, "Please rest assured for this matter, regardless of who did it, the truth will be revealed. In the end, when the truth comes to light, the Coiled Dragon clan will seek an explanation from them. Patriarch Debeo has gone to the first-rate Dragon Palace. The other two patriarchs are in solitary training. Regardless, I have already thought of a way to send the news to the third patriarch. I believe that he will come out soon. Mr. Supervisor, for this matter, we would not dare to disturb the third patriarch's solitary training." Qin Lianshan and Shi Ming, the father-in-law and son-in-law, also felt deep sympathy for the Stargaze Palace. All of them came over to comfort them. Tan Zhongqi said, "Junior brother Lianshan, you should also pay more attention to your personal safety. I am afraid that enemy's first target is not Wei, Yi, and Muji." Qin Lianshan said with a grave expression, "I am ashamed that because of Wushuang, I have implicated everyone. However," Zhuo Buchuan said, "Patriarch Lianshan, you are treating us as outsiders. If it weren't for Wushuang, it's uncertain whether the Stargaze Palace would still exist. Just that heavenly Luo Daoist sect alone is enough to destroy the Stargaze Palace 10 times over. I only hope that Wushuang can grow quickly and shatter the Heavenly Emperor Gate scheme, and save the two young people." Qin Lianshan gave a deep sigh. When Lei Yu and Xi and Tianwu arrived at the border area, they immediately sent the information to the Heavenly Emperor Gate's intelligence network at the endless Eastern Sea. Of course, spreading rumors required some techniques. They must not say that the Heavenly Emperor Gate did it. Yet they must let Qin Wushuang guess that it was done by the Heavenly Emperor Gate. In other words, they must achieve a tacit mutual understanding. In the past few days, clearly more martial artists had gathered at the Rising Sun City. Qin Wushuang took it all in his eyes and knew what was going on. Yet he did not expose it. How could he not know that many people here had come for him? Especially when he observed through the observant finger jade plate that He Xinyu had clearly arrived at the border of the Rising Sun City. Yet he did not show himself. Clearly, he was scheming something. However, Qin Wushuang knew his whereabouts like the back of his hand. How could he care? Now, he was considering whether to erupt at this Rising Sun City or to lure these people to the rushing current valley. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 766. Recently, Mi Jia's mood was very irritable. It was because her woman's intuition made her realize that some indescribable hostility was pressing down on her head like a dark cloud. If it wasn't for Qin Wushuang opposing her with all his strength, with this sorceress personality, most likely she would have done more crazy things. This time, Mi Jia was able to endure silently because she had caused trouble in the Yazi Dragon City last time. She did not dare to act rashly again. With Mi Jia's personality, if it was during normal times, even if she had suffered once, she would certainly do things her own way and would certainly not change her style. However, this time, she could not explain why. Under Qin Wushuang's prestige, she was unexpectedly very obedient for the first time and did not dare to cause trouble again. Standing before Qin Wushuang's door, after hesitating for a moment, Mi Jia gritted her teeth and pushed the door to enter. Qin Wushuang had already been in seclusion for many days. Mi Jia was indeed annoyed that no one spoke to her these days. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Mi Jia's listless face. Qin Wushuang said indifferently, "Miss Mi Jia, you can't hold it in anymore?" Mi Jia was extremely gloomy. "Kid Wushuang, are you here to challenge the rushing current valley or to cultivate in seclusion? I don't want to be your free protector." Qin Wushuang said curiously, "Are you my protector? These few days, you have been pacing back and forth in front of my door many times, but I don't seem to feel your sincerity as a protector." Mi Jia said with vexation, "I am protecting you in the dark. All right? All right, I will not talk to you anymore. The dense fog over there has gradually dispersed, and the weather is gradually getting better. When are you preparing to depart?" Qin Wushuang shot a glance outside the window, intentionally or unintentionally. "When we depart does not depend on you and me, but on others. Miss Mi Jia, could it be you don't know that we are already trapped in a tight encirclement?" "Who says I don't know? If I didn't consider that you are in seclusion, I would have already killed my way out. Why would I wait until now? Kill your way out." Qin Wushuang said jokingly, "Do you think you can kill that many? Other things aside, can you deal with He Xinyu? He Xinyu is finally here?" Mi Jia was shocked. "Humph," Qin Wushuang said coldly. "He is here, but I don't know what kind of conspiracy he is playing. He is unwilling to enter the city. They must be plotting outside the city." Mi Jia was surprised. "How did you know?" "I have my own plans," Qin Wushuang said calmly. "Then what should we do? Can you guarantee that when we leave the city, we will avoid them?" Mi Jia asked worriedly. After all, she had seen He Xinyu's methods. Now that they had made a comeback, there must be accomplices. In that case, the Heavenly Network might be waiting for them outside Sunrise City. Avoid them? Qin Wushuang snorted and asked, "Why should we avoid them?" Mi Jia was a little surprised. She looked at Qin Wushuang and stuttered. "Then what do you mean? Since he is waiting for me there, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't go and meet him?" Qin Wushuang smiled coldly. "I am worried about you instead." "Worried about what?" Mi Jia's self-esteem suddenly overflowed. "You are not afraid. Do you think I will be afraid? I don't know if you are afraid or not, but we are on the same journey. If something happens to you, it won't look good on my face." Qin Wushuang laughed. Don't look down on me. Even if I can't defeat that He Xinyu, I still have the ability to escape." "Really? If that's the case, then I am relieved." How about this? You leave first. According to my calculation, that Xinyu's main target is me. If you go out, he shouldn't alert the enemy. As long as you enter the rushing current valley first, I will be able to meet up with you later. No, isn't this making me a deserter? Mi Jia immediately disagreed. Qin Wushuang scolded idiot woman in his heart, but he said, this is the best way. If you don't leave, then we will part ways here. Mi Jia glared at Qin Wushuang. Are you looking down on me? Qin Wushuang shook his head helplessly. I really don't know what to do with you. Listen carefully. If both of us break out at the same time, the other party will have more targets. If they really want to attack you and besiege you, I definitely won't leave you to die. You don't want to be flustered at that time, right? Believe me, you leave first. This is the best way. Then when are you leaving? Mi Jia asked angrily. I still have at least 7 days. The next 7 days are very crucial for me. Mi Jia was not stupid. She asked sternly, are you going to break through to the Supreme Tao stage? Qin Wushuang smiled, but did not answer. Mi Jia could not help but ask, I have a question that I have always wanted to ask you. You obviously did not enter the Supreme Tao stage. Why is it that no matter if it is your physical body or your realm, you're not weaker than the Supreme Tao stage? In the end, how many secrets do you have that I don't know? You want to know? Mi Jia nodded unconsciously. Then, she seemed to realize that Qin Wushuang would certainly not tell her. She said with resentment, is it fun to keep me in suspense? Qin Wushuang said leisurely, if there are any secrets, there will be a day when the truth comes to light. Mi Jia mumbled, pretending to be mysterious. Indeed, the truth was as Mi Jia had said. Qin Wushuang's journey at the endless Eastern Sea in these few months had truly allowed him to show signs of a breakthrough. Initially, the stage from the peak of the common mysterious stage to the Supreme Tao stage could be said to be easy. However, to the majority of elite warriors, it was incredibly difficult. In other words, this stage differed from person to person. If one had a good foundation and outstanding talent, this stage would be incredibly easy and the time spent would be short. If one did not have enough talent and aptitude, most likely breaking into the Supreme Tao stage would be a mission that could not be completed in one's lifetime. To Qin Wushuang, in fact, he already possessed the foundation of the Supreme Tao stage with all the conditions. Only, he needed a process where the conditions were right and success would follow naturally. Initially, this process would not have come this quickly. However, because of that transaction at the Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon, he had acquired the Recuperate Pearl. To Qin Wushuang, this Recuperate Pearl was definitely like a tiger that had grown wings. It directly reduced Qin Wushuang's time in this stage by 1/3. Initially, according to Qin Wushuang's progress, he should have needed about a year. However, with the Recuperate Pearl, it only took him 3 to 4 months to reach this crucial step. Vividly, Qin Wushuang sensed a trace of heavenly mystery. He knew that the Supreme Tao stage was already knocking on the door. Finally, a trace of dawn had emerged for this long-awaited Supreme stage, the Supreme stage that countless martial artists yearn for even in their dreams. It was beckoning to Qin Wushuang. The Supreme Tao stage could condense the divine soul. As long as the divine soul did not die, one's life would not die. For cultivators, entering the Supreme Divine Tao was equivalent to obtaining a much longer lifespan than ordinary cultivators. Additionally, theoretically, the undying divine soul of the Supreme Tao stage was indestructible. Of course, this was only in theory. To Supreme Tao elite warriors, since ancient times, there had never been an absolutely immortal Supreme Tao elite warrior. In the history of the Tianxian land, it seemed that no Supreme Tao elite warriors from the immemorial era had lived until now. They either turned into ashes in the countless Supreme Tao calamities, or they were killed by their enemies. Or, after their divine soul reincarnated, their enemies learned about it and killed them directly. It was easy to say that the divine soul was indestructible, but it was extremely difficult to achieve. Despite this fact, in the end, the Supreme Tao stage was a dream that countless martial artists yearned for day and night. After all, Entering the supreme Tao of gods meant being reborn, attaining a higher level, and entering a supreme realm. Not to mention anything else, just the oppressive feeling from the supreme Tao stage to ordinary martial artists, the lofty and superior attitude was enough to drive countless martial artists crazy. Who wouldn't hope that a fellow cultivator who was at the same cultivation level as himself in the past would respectfully address him as senior after he entered the divine Tao? In the Tianxian land, the supreme Tao stage meant status. It meant entering the top class and being qualified to participate in the high-end world of the Tianxian land. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's expression, she felt incredibly astonished inwardly. She swore, "Such a monstrous person. If I remember correctly, the first time I saw you, you were only at the Ravine Mysterious stage. In just half a year, you made continuous breakthroughs? Are you still a human?" Of course, Qin Wushuang knew that this sorceress was scolding him in a roundabout way. He laughed. "If scolding me can make you feel better, then keep scolding me. However, when you go out, remember to close the door." Mi Jia cast aside her lips and said, "Don't you need me to protect you? Do as you wish. Will you die if you beg me? As long as you beg me, I will protect you." In the end, Mi Jia wanted to defeat Qin Wushuang verbally. It's better to rely on yourself than others. Not to mention, AI Simo is here, right? Qin Wushuang shot a glance at AI Simo. Mi Jia cried out, "You are using child labor." Qin Wushuang waved his hand impatiently. "I don't have time to bicker with you. Since you like to hear it, then take it as me begging you." Mi Jia muttered, "Is there anyone who begs like this?" However, she still smiled and said, "All right, stinky brat. I will make an exception this time. Later, after you enter the rushing current valley, you have to work harder for me." After saying that, she floated out like a gust of wind. Qin Wushuang summoned the two spiritual beasts out and gave them the dragon breath seal. In addition to AI Simo and Mi Jia, there was definitely not much of a problem in terms of protecting them. Even if a strong enemy barged in, they could also deal with it for a while. It was not to the extent of being the first to be attacked. The reason why Qin Wushuang wanted to break through so urgently was also because he had a layer of consideration. He had fought with He Xinyu before and knew that person's methods. Unless he, Qin Wushuang, entered the supreme Tao stage, otherwise he would definitely not be able to eliminate He Xinyu. As long as he entered the supreme Tao stage, there would be plenty of opportunities. Not to mention killing a transformation supreme Tao elite warrior. Qin Wushuang still had some confidence in eliminating He Xinyu, a 6th or 7th Tribulation Supreme Tao warrior. 1 week's time, Qin Wushuang was very confident. Perhaps, if everything went smoothly, 3 or 4 days would be enough. After all, he was now fully prepared, and the east wind just happened to blow in. When the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. Qin Wushuang's heart was as still as water. Now, the dragon breath that he absorbed from the supreme Tao of the Flood Dragon clan, as well as the small amount of dragon breath that he absorbed from He Xinyu, had almost been refined by him. These two dragon breaths had also triggered the demon dragon bloodline in Qin Wushuang's body. It also played a role in promoting Qin Wushuang's breakthrough. Regarding this matter, Qin Wushuang was well aware of it. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.qijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 767. Qin Wushuang remembered the days he spent at the Stargaze Palace. Although he had stayed at the Stargaze Palace for less than 3 years, to Qin Wushuang, it was a period of growth for him. It was also a period of time for him to mature and experience the wonders of this world. Regarding his experience of the Stargaze Palace, Qin Wushuang cared deeply about it. Deep inside his heart, the Stargaze Palace always had a place. This did not come out of nowhere. From the bitter training at the entrance, to the outstanding performance at the end of the year competition, to becoming friends with his senior brothers, to the life and death battle at the Green Jade Mountain and the Archaic Mysteries sect, to the Three Empires Invitational competition, to the invasion of the Nine Raven Empire. It could be said that Qin Wushuang had experienced too much with the Stargaze Palace. Naturally, Qin Wushuang knew what Wei, Yi, and Zhao Muji meant to the Stargaze Palace. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's terrifying expression, she gave a light cough and asked, "Are you planning to return to the Xianyuan Mount?" Or, Qin Wushuang thought, "If I go back now, with my strength, I am afraid I will not be able to compete with Heavenly Emperor Xen Tianwen." The head chief used his divine soul to seal the Nirvana heavenly plow and suffered severe injuries. He would not be able to deal with Xen Tianwen. Most importantly, the attitude of the Xian Yuan totem clan is not clear. To what extent will the Xian Yuan totem clan interfere? It would be useless to return to the Xian Yuan Mount now. The people who captured Wei, Yi, and Zhao Muji must be from the Heavenly Emperor Gate. Of course, they captured them for me. If I had not appeared, perhaps these two would have suffered some hardship, but they would not have lost their lives. Or else, they would not have been able to threaten me. Thus, I still have room to maneuver. I have come to the endless Eastern Sea for less than a year. There are still a dozen years until the Heavenly Emperor election. If I go back now, not only would I not be able to save them, most likely they would take advantage of me. Qin Wushuang calculated inwardly. He knew that to him, the situation was extremely grim. If he went back, certainly he would fail. Not only would he not be able to save them, most likely he would ruin the entire situation. If he continued to cultivate, there was still a chance for him to turn the tables around. However, this required patience. Raising his head, Qin Wushuang's gaze was resolute. "Didn't you say that the rushing current valley has already cleared up? Let's go to Tang Valley." Mi Jia was shocked. "Really? What?" Qin Wushuang asked. "Is there a problem?" Mi Jia spread out her hands. "If you leave now, I won't blame you for going back on your words. I've always heard that you're a righteous man. This young lady doesn't want to ruin the friendship between the two of you." Fellow disciples. Qin Wushuang muttered these two words with a dignified expression. In any case, the Heavenly Emperor Gate will definitely pay the price. With my current strength, if I cannot defeat Heavenly Emperor Xen Tianwen, it would be useless to return to the Xianyuan Mount. If I didn't have any other important responsibilities, I might have done it even if I knew it was impossible. However, at this moment, I carry the great responsibility of the Qin clan's crisis. It would not be a wise choice to strike a stone with an egg. Now, Mi Jia realized something all of a sudden. She looked at Qin Wushuang with a complicated gaze. In this case, let's go to the rushing current valley. However, it's not easy to leave now. Mi Jia's brows were concealed with worry. On the outside, there are many existences that are casting covetous glances at you and me. Listen to my plan. You leave first. Wait for me near the entrance of the rushing current valley. With your identity as a disciple of the Horned Dragon clan, not many people would dare to offend you. Their main target is me. If I leave, won't you become the only target? Mi Jia was still unwilling. Don't worry, these people cannot keep me. Qin Wushuang's eyes were calm and confident. This time, Mi Jia was no longer willful as she nodded. All right, I will listen to you. However, you must promise me that you must come out alive. Please, don't make it so melodramatic. Qin Wushuang waved his hand as he could not bear it. Wait for me there. Perhaps I will arrive right after you. Qin Wushuang's calm tone was filled with unparalleled confidence. All right. Mi Jia changed her outfit slightly and floated away. Qin Wushuang opened the observant finger jade plate and observed Mi Jia's figure until she left the rising sun city. During this period of time, that He Xinyu indeed showed some unusual movements. However, in the end, he did not deal with Mi Jia. Obviously, this He Xinyu's main target was indeed Qin Wushuang. The corner of Qin Wushuang's mouth overflowed with a trace of an evil grin as he muttered to himself, obtaining the graceful spiritual bow. As expected, an ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This graceful spiritual bow allowed my life to be filled with legends. Naturally, it would be accompanied by these battles. Since I possess such a divine object, I must have the mental awareness to face everything. He Xinyu. Let me start with you. Even if the road ahead is filled with bones, it will not stop me from moving forward. Whoever stops me will have to die. In his mind, evil thoughts arose abruptly. The murderous aura that the graceful spiritual bow gave him became even more intense and overflowed even more wildly. The current Qin Wushuang was no longer that martial artist who would allow others to bully him before making a move. Because of the graceful spiritual bow, even if he had to offend all the practitioners, he would not hesitate. Whoever conspires against me, they must have the mental awareness to die. Thinking of this, Qin Wushuang's back shook. The purple cloud in yang wings that had evolved again after breaking through to the supreme Dao stage emitted enchanting purple gas. Instantly, it filled the entire space. At this moment, the purple cloud in yang wings had already evolved to the penultimate level, which was also the sixth evolution. Although it was not the final form, the purple gas had already formed. It was only one step away from the final form of the two extremes of yin and yang. When this purple gas was activated, its imposing manner indeed had a majestic atmosphere that could swallow the heavens and absorb the earth. Qin Wushuang stomped his feet, and his figure turned into a purple flowing light as he dashed straight up. The purple cloud in yang wings that had undergone the sixth mutation could not be compared to the past. In the blink of an eye, it was like a sudden storm, lightning, and thunder. In the sky above the entire Sunrise City, one could only see a terrifying purple gas gushing out. In the blink of an eye, it rushed out of sight. Purple gas from the east, supreme Dao purple gas. The entire Sunrise City was suddenly filled with exclamations. Looking at this magnificent purple gas, their hearts were throbbing with a sense of amazement. Oh no, it's Qin Wushuang. Yes, that pair of wings. It must be him. Oh no, let him escape chase. Inside the rising sun city, those powerhouses that had been eyeing Qin Wushuang covetously finally woke up with a start. They realized that the situation was far from reassuring. All of them shouted and chased after that ball of purple air. Qin Wushuang's eyes were firm as he observed the observant finger jade plate. The target was outside the east gate of the Sunrise City, which was the only way from the Sunrise City to the rushing current valley. Of course, this was also the place where the people who were eyeing Qin Wushuang had set up the most ambush. With a graceful spiritual bow in his hand, Qin Wushuang was majestic as if a god had descended from the sky. With his speed, even the people who were ambushing him could not react in time. Xinyu was discussing something with Shuya of the Yazi tribe at the East Gate. Shuya was an elite warrior of the Yazi tribe who was on the same level as Xinyu. His tone was somewhat displeased. Xinyu, didn't you say that girl Mi Jia offended you? Why did you let her go? The non-Nine Dragon clans and the true Nine Dragon clans have never dealt with each other. I want to capture that girl and humiliate her. It's also good to show the Horn Dragon clan who's boss. Xinyu forced a smile and said, "It's easy to capture that girl, but that kid will be alerted. It will be difficult to capture him. The graceful spiritual bow is much more important than that girl. As long as we capture that girl, aren't you afraid that the kid will be captured?" Shuya disagreed. Brother Shuya, you only know one side of the story and don't know the other. Although that girl is on the same side as Qin Wushuang, she's not related to him. However, she and that brat were not related to each other. Even if they were in love recently, they were only husband and wife who were just putting on a show. Would that brat really risk his life for her? Xiniu's words also appear to be reasonable and well-founded. Shuya said impatiently, "Even if what you said is reasonable, if that kid doesn't come out, are we going to wait here forever?" Xiniu forced a smile and said, "The inside of Sunrise City is not an ordinary place. It's a place that even the forefather dragon tribe will check. How would you and I dare to act rashly in the city? Don't worry, that kid won't stay there forever." Shuya snorted. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly frowned and looked at the direction of Sunrise City with a deep gaze. From afar, a ball of purple gas was rushing over like lightning. "What's that?" Shuya's heart tightened. Xiniu took a look and said happily, "Everyone, pay attention. It's that kid. He's planning to barge in. Haha, he's courting death. Before he could finish speaking, a sharp whistling sound came from the sky. Qin Wushuang's voice was like thunder. Today, those who block me die. After he finished speaking, the graceful spiritual bow appeared in his hand, and 3 shooting sun arrows were hung on the bowstring. He activated his divine power and poured his divine power into the bow and arrows. Purple gas and golden light intertwined with each other and overflowed with divine power, making people's hearts tremble and their spirits soar. That golden light suddenly scuttled out from the purple gas and became one. A semicircular attack wave brewed by the golden light rapidly spread out. The entire sky was instantly covered by this semicircular golden light. The dazzling light made most of the people unable to open their eyes. Within the golden light, the 3 shooting sun arrows were like divine dragons dancing. They actually carried a powerful dragon breath and faintly showed signs of transforming into the shape of a dragon. The group of cultivators who bore the brunt of the attack immediately felt suffocated in front of this powerful attack wave. Not good, retreat. There are arrows, quickly hide. In the midst of the panicked screams, 20 to 30 figures fled in all directions in a flurry. They simply did not dare to face the attack head-on. Like startled sparrows, they fled in all directions. Qin Wushuang urged the purple-clouding yang wings and did not slow down his speed. He followed the shock wave of that golden light and raised the graceful spiritual bow from his hand again. Still, he hung 3 shooting sun arrows on top of it and shot them after accumulating power. Rumble, rumble. The aura of the golden light tearing apart the blue dome of the sky produced waves after waves of monstrous explosions. It shook the clouds and made the blue dome of the sky dim. The 3 shooting sun arrows had already pierced through 3 cultivators who could not escape in time with lightning speed and directly exploded into dregs. Qin Wushuang roared and had already rushed to within 30 miles of Hiziniu's group. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.qijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 768. Hiziniu's gaze was gloomy as his lips trembled slightly. He mumbled, "That kid seems to have surpassed his previous strength." Shuya was stunned and sneered. "How long has it been?" "In just 10 days or half a month, his strength has surpassed his previous strength. Who do you think this kid is?" Hiziniu gave a long sigh. "Shuya, regardless of whether you believe it or not, I have fought with him, and I know it clearly. When I fought with him, he had yet to enter the supreme Tao stage. Observing his temperament now, it seems he has broken the barrier of the supreme Tao stage and entered the supreme Tao stage." "Haha, supreme Tao stage? A guy that has just entered the supreme Tao stage. Is it worth making such a big fuss? If I remember correctly, none of us here are not at the 6th or 7th calamity of the coagulate supreme Tao stage, right?" Shuya still disapproved. "Brother Shuya, since you have not fought with him, you cannot understand this monstrous person. If I did not have the experience of fighting with him, certainly I would not have such rueful feelings." Shuya laughed. "All right, then let me experience what kind of monstrous person will emerge from the Xianyuan Mound. Is it the graceful spiritual bow? Unfortunately, my Jackal Wolf clan has the Jackal Wolf Divine Blade. Let's see if my Divine Blade, or his graceful spiritual bow, is stronger." After he had finished speaking, this Shuya scuttled, and a lump of brown cloud gushed out from his entire body. With a flash of light from his hand, a battle blade with an extremely enchanting appearance had appeared. This battle blade emitted an extremely enchanting light. The entire body of the blade was white, and when he held in his hand, it gave people a dazzling visual impact. Just as Hiziniu was about to open his mouth to stop him, he thought inwardly and did not stop him. Inwardly, he snickered. "It's good to let this Shuya fight. Since he likes to stick out, why shouldn't I just sit back and reap the benefits?" Thinking here vividly, Hiziniu was looking forward to it. Inwardly, he muttered, "Shuya, don't disappoint me. In any case, he and Shuya shared a relationship. He would not curse Shuya to be killed by Qin Wushuang. However, he also did not wish for Shuya to defeat Qin Wushuang instantly and take away the graceful spiritual bow. The best result would be both sides suffering. At this moment, Qin Wushuang was wholeheartedly trying to break through the encirclement. He had an imposing manner of killing Buddha if Buddha blocked his path. Seeing a person rushing out from the front, they initially thought it was He Xinyu, but they could tell it wasn't He Xinyu at a glance. He smiled faintly in his heart. This must be the guy that He Xinyu sent to take the lead. Humph, humph, how can we fall into his trap? With a sudden twist of his body, the trajectory of his flight changed slightly. With a flash of purple light, it shot into the sky at lightning speed and disappeared in a flash. In the next moment, Qin Wushuang rushed out of the cloud and bypassed the aggressive Shuya. He dived straight towards He Xinyu's position. When Shuya turned around and saw Qin Wushuang's back, he angrily shouted. On the other hand, Qin Wushuang rushed towards He Xinyu without hesitation and laughed. He Xinyu, I know you've been waiting here for a long time. Today, I will fulfill your wish. How could He Xinyu have expected that this Qin Wushuang would break through Shuya's defense line without any effort and rush his front? He was furious and almost cursed out loud. Fortunately, he was in a position where he had accumulated power and was ready to take action, so he wasn't flustered. His entire body transformed, his dragon tail swayed, and his dragon breath was spurted out unceasingly, congealing into layers of defensive air shields. This move was a replica of the battle with Qin Wushuang. At that time, Qin Wushuang couldn't break through this defense with the power of the graceful spiritual bow. Therefore, this He Xinyu's first thought was to adopt this defensive posture and take the initiative. He would consider other matters later. Qin Wushuang laughed loudly and shouted, repeating the same old trick? He Xinyu sneered. Aren't you also relying on this graceful spiritual bow? If you have the ability, give up the graceful spiritual bow and fight with me? Qin Wushuang said indifferently, your provocation is not important to me. Whether I kill you or not, it is very important to me. You want the graceful spiritual bow? Then I will use the graceful spiritual bow to send you on your way. You should rejoice. Shameless boasting. He Xinyu's mouth said that he was powerful, but he didn't dare to neglect. He spurted out dragon breath continuously and set up defenses on that defensive air wall. It increased the power of the defense. He had seen the power of the graceful spiritual bow and knew that after this Qin Wushuang broke through, his attack power might increase greatly. Therefore, he used all of his strength to defend this time. Qin Wushuang's gaze was sharp as he stared at that dragon breath chi wall. He shouted, He Xinyu, wake up! The purple cloud yin-yang wings glided and brought out two long arcs in the sky. The purple chi was like a rainbow as it streaked across the sky. In Qin Wushuang's hands, the graceful spiritual bow was activated again, and the shooting sun arrows were knocked without hesitation. This battle was a life and death battle that would determine victory and defeat. No matter what the opponent said, the graceful spiritual bow was Qin Wushuang's strongest weapon and also his strongest trump card. Golden light overflowed as if a demon struggled free from the graceful spiritual bow. Behind him, Shuya waved the Yazi divine saber and also attacked aggressively. He Xinyu was overjoyed at the unexpected good news. There was an interception in front and a pursuer behind. As long as he blocked Qin Wushuang's first attack, he could immediately form a two-sided attack. Even if this Qin Wushuang had heaven-defying methods, he would undoubtedly die under the two-sided attack. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He spurted out dragon breath and prepared to resist with all his strength. The golden light flashed, and the shooting sun arrows that were bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws suddenly disappeared into the void. He Xinyu's pupils suddenly contracted. In the next moment, that golden light flashed again and had already rushed to the front of his defensive air wall. This air wall suddenly produced a violent vibration. Then, the entire wall started to sway abruptly. The ripples undulated unceasingly, and its power became more and more intense. Xinyu's heart tightened as he suddenly realized that something was wrong. It was at this moment that Qin Wushuang smiled leisurely. The graceful spiritual bow in his hand emitted a tyrannical golden light. The continuous shooting sun arrows were shot out one after another. Unexpectedly, there were as many as 3 arrows that came at once. The power was like a wave. The rear wave pushed the front wave and gushed over continuously. Xinyu's air wall was instantly swallowed by this golden light. With a rumbling sound, it completely shattered. The penetrating power of the shooting sun arrows was extremely strong. They broke through the air wall and bombarded Xinyu directly. Xinyu was frightened out of his wits. The scale armor on his entire body was immediately urged to its strongest state. His body also twisted crazily and rose into the sky as he desperately escaped. However, Qin Wushuang's determination to kill Xinyu was not shaken at all. The shooting sun arrows were like maggots in the bones as they entangled him tightly. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive shooting sun arrows hit Xinyu's Dharma body. On the scale armor, the place where the golden light hit, a desperate gap instantly cracked open. The clumps of air on the surface of the scale armor were rapidly flowing away. As for the scale armor itself, it was continuously cracking open at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. The desperate scar was like a gap that kept on getting bigger and bigger. Dark red blood kept on flowing out. Xinyu was in so much pain that his entire body was trembling. He rolled in the sky and let out a miserable cry. Qin Wushuang, you will die a horrible death. This miserable cry pierced the eardrums of the people within a few hundred miles and made their hearts and souls cold. Qin Wushuang laughed nastily and said, I don't need you to predict whether I will die a horrible death, because you won't be able to see it. After he finished speaking, Qin Wushuang had already rushed to the front of Xinyu. He twirled the graceful spiritual bow and wrapped around Xinyu's body. He pulled the bowstring, and Xinyu's huge head soared into the sky. A blood arrow spurted out from his skull and flew into the sky with a loud bang. Qin Wushuang twisted his body and kicked in the air, like a soccer player shooting a goal. He kicked on that head and crashed towards Shuya, who was behind him. This is for you. Shuya's charging speed was extremely fast. However, at the moment when Qin Wushuang killed Xinyu, Shuya suddenly braked and forcibly stopped his charging momentum. If you were to charge over like this, it would be a dead end. Seeing Xinyu's head that was filled with unwillingness and fear flying over, Shuya shuddered. This face that he was familiar with was now separated from his body and body. The uncontrollable shudder made Shuya involuntarily take a few steps back. Holding the Yazi divine saber in his hand, he couldn't muster up the courage to charge a second time. At this moment, he suddenly recalled Xinyu's warning earlier. He rejoiced in his heart. He was really lucky. When he charged at the beginning, if it wasn't because the other party was eager to kill Xinyu and didn't detour around him and charge head-on, he was afraid that his fate wouldn't be any better than Xinyu's after being blasted by the graceful spiritual bow. Perhaps the fate of the head being separated from the body would happen to him. With a sweep of the saber, Xinyu's head was split open. Shuya didn't even bother to explain the formalities. He turned into a cloud and fled without turning his head back. Seeing Shuya fleeing in such a sorry state, the other experts who were preparing to attack Qin Wushuang were even more dumbfounded. How could they still muster up the courage to consider this? They all scattered like birds and beasts. As for those Transformation Supreme Tao experts who were hiding in the distance, although they didn't flee in panic, they were also weighing whether they could really take down that Qin Wushuang with their own strength. While they were hesitating, Qin Wushuang let out a long whistle, and his figure had already rolled away. Xinyu's body was dragged by Qin Wushuang's Fury Dragon Soul, flying in the sky like a kite. Suddenly, Xinyu's body was flung out and exploded into pieces in the sky. Qin Wushuang exclaimed in satisfaction. At that moment, his power of Deep North was activated to the limit, and he had already absorbed Xinyu Supreme Tao power completely. He captured the divine soul of the dragon pellet that was on the verge of death. This divine soul dragon pellet was a great tonic. Qin Wushuang naturally wouldn't kill it easily since he had this opportunity. Whether it was swallowing it or refining it into a puppet, it would be of great benefit. Of course, Qin Wushuang planned to refine this divine soul dragon pellet into a puppet. Although the golem puppet was mainly controlled by Qin Wushuang's own divine soul, the golem puppet was still very powerful. However, if the golem puppet itself was completely subservient to Qin Wushuang's divine soul, then the power of this golem puppet would naturally increase greatly without a doubt. Now, Qin Wushuang planned to combine the divine venomous puppet technique and the golem puppet technique, these two different puppet techniques, and make comprehensive use of them. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.qijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 769. Capturing He Xinyu's divine soul dragon pellet alive was an additional gain for Qin Wushuang. Looking at Shuya of the Yazi clan fleeing far away, Qin Wushuang did not chase after him. He knew that although the surrounding cultivators seemed to be fleeing, there were faintly stronger Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors waiting for an opportunity to launch a surprise attack on him. Therefore, he could not be careless at all. Due to this layer of consideration, Qin Wushuang did not weaken his aura. Instead, he kept activating the dragon breath in his body. Divine light kept overflowing and his aura kept increasing. At the same time, the graceful spiritual bow also cooperated and brought out the best of each other, emitting a powerful, murderous aura. With all these aspects combined, Qin Wushuang's aura did not lose to the Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors. Especially the way he killed He Xinyu, it had a deterrent effect on the enemy. For him, it also had the effect of increasing his confidence. In one spur of energy, his aura kept climbing to the peak. After witnessing Qin Wushuang's method of killing He Xinyu, the Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors who were lying in ambush were shaken. In terms of aura, there was a faint trend of decline. In between the rise and fall, there was an extremely subtle change in the entire situation. With this moment of hesitation, Qin Wushuang's body had already rushed out of the encirclement and sprinted towards the rushing current valley at full speed. His figure flashed, and in the midst of the rushing current valley, he became a blurry shadow and gradually turned into a black, until he disappeared from everyone's sight. Only then did those Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors suddenly woke up. They scuttled out from the darkness and looked at the direction of the rushing current valley in a trance. However, they were extremely hesitant. Of course, there was no shame on their faces. No one felt that it was shameful that they did not stand out to stop Qin Wushuang. Obviously, after Qin Wushuang displayed his absolute method, those Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors realized that Qin Wushuang already had the ability to deter them. The rushing current valley is a dangerous place. That kid is courting death by going there. Didn't they say that the Golden Crow was resurrected? Is this kid going there to be a snack for the Golden Crow? Should we give chase? Humph, the so-called Golden Crow is most likely a rumor made by the 18 dragon clans of the endless Eastern Sea to scare themselves. It's not trustworthy. Chase. Of course. Everyone, although we don't know each other, I'm sure we're all here for the same reason. As everyone can see, it is impossible for any one of us to deal with Qin Wushuang alone. Even if the two of them attacked together, they would not be able to stop him from moving as fast as a ghost. Therefore, I call on everyone to unite and destroy that brat first. It's easy to kill that brat, but how are we going to split the spoils after joining forces? Who can obtain the graceful spiritual bow and convince the masses? Haha, everyone has come for the graceful spiritual bow. But don't forget, if they couldn't kill Qin Wushuang, it would be impossible to seize the graceful spiritual bow. After we kill Qin Wushuang, we will discuss how to distribute the graceful spiritual bow. Regardless of whether we use the method of competition or forceful robbery, we will have our own rules. If he has any wicked ideas, the others will gang up and attack him. Yes, what this Tao's friend said makes sense. We should indeed unite. Otherwise, we would have come here in vain. Especially in the rushing current valley, in a vast water region, if we don't unite, it would be a fool's dream to destroy Qin Wushuang. That makes sense. Let's unite and destroy Qin Wushuang first. Then we will discuss other things. Qin Wushuang rushed into the rushing current valley. At the first moment, he locked onto Mi Jia's position. The purple cloud yin yang wings were activated at full speed. He turned into a purple flowing light and landed directly on a reef. Mi Jia was overjoyed. "You're here." Qin Wushuang turned around and took a glance. He smiled and said, "I'm here, but I might have attracted more trouble later." Mi Jia did not mind. She pouted. "What's there to be afraid of? I'm not afraid of trouble. I'm only afraid of no trouble." "Is that so? If I tell you that there will be a few Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors chasing after me, no less than 10 of them, what would you think?" Mi Jia's expression changed. "Everyone says I'm a troublemaker. I think you're the real troublemaker. Are you afraid?" Mi Jia puffed up her chest. "What's there to be afraid of? In the rushing current valley, they dare to act recklessly unless they don't want their lives. If they really alarm the legendary Golden Crow, they're dead meat. The Golden Crow is just a rumor. Do you really think it's real?" "Humph. Even if there's no Golden Crow, there are many monsters in the rushing current valley. Don't you know? This rushing current valley is an existence that even the ancestral dragon tribe has a headache over." Qin Wushuang was not interested in these. Instead, he asked, "Where are the hibiscus wood and the scarlet fire?" "Hibiscus wood? I didn't say I want the hibiscus wood." Mi Jia had a suspicious look. "You don't want it. Can't I have it?" "You? What do you want it for?" "You. Could it be that you want to make a divine weapon?" "Yes, it must be. You definitely know how to make a divine weapon, right? Otherwise, why would you collect the fish iron bone?" Mi Jia's imagination suddenly overflowed. "This doesn't seem to have anything to do with you?" Qin Wushuang blushed and said, "If you have any information, hurry up and share it. If not, let's just break up immediately." Burning the bridge after crossing the river, Mi Jia muttered with her sexy red lips. "However," she smiled sweetly, "however, if you want to cast me aside, there's no way. Let me tell you, there's only one place in the entire rushing current valley that has the hibiscus wood. It's also the lair of the Golden Crow. In the hibiscus forest, there's a towering hibiscus wood and some ordinary hibiscus wood. Other than that place, there's no other place in the entire rushing current valley that has that thing." Qin Wushuang's expression was grave. "The lair of the Golden Crow? Do we really have to go deep into that place to have it?" "Why? Aren't you not afraid of the Golden Crow?" Mi Jia asked with a faint smile. "If other places have it, why would we give up what's near and seek what's far away? The problem is that other places don't have it." Mi Jia said with a smile, "You accompany me to find the scarlet fire first. Then I'll bring you to the hibiscus forest, the lair of the Golden Crow." "Forget it. Since the hibiscus forest is so dangerous, I don't need you to bring me. Just point me in a direction will do." Qin Wushuang didn't want to be a burden. Mi Jia chuckled and spread out a hand-drawn map. "I spent a lot of money to get this map. There are only a few places that have the scarlet fire. Of course, these are all just speculations." "Speculations? How can you be so accurate when it comes to guessing?" "Of course, it's not a groundless speculation," Mi Jia said angrily. "The scarlet fire is the most powerful fire in the world. It's the immemorial divine fire that was hidden underground during the immemorial era. Other than the universe's origin fire, this immemorial divine fire should be the most powerful. How are you going to absorb such a powerful fire?" Of course I'm not going to absorb it. I only need to absorb the fire spirit. I'll extract the fire spirit from the scarlet fire to train my supreme Tao attribute. After forming the fire spirit of the scarlet fire, I'll be able to refine the scarlet fire through my hard work. From there, I'll be able to unleash the power of my various unique skills to the strongest realm. Absorb the fire spirit? Can you extract the scarlet fire by yourself? Qin Wushuang asked. Mi Jiao was speechless. She looked at Qin Wushuang as if she was looking at a monster. I say, you're so powerful when you fight normally. Why are you asking me about this common knowledge instead? Why? Can't I ask? Qin Wushuang faintly realized that maybe his question was very shallow, and it was a common knowledge of the Supreme Tao. However, for Qin Wushuang, he didn't have a guide at all. When he first entered the Supreme Tao, he didn't have a teacher to teach him the knowledge of the Supreme Tao systematically. Mi Jia sighed and said, all right, maybe you just broke through to the Supreme Tao and don't know much about it. It's not just the Scarlet Fire. All the Supreme Tao attribute objects in the world can extract the soul of the Supreme Tao, as long as it's extracted and connected with the original spirit to form a controlling force. You'll be able to refine this object through your own power. This is the power of natural reproduction. If one doesn't even have this bit of magical power, how can it be called the Supreme Tao? The Supreme Tao is a power that extends continuously and reproduces unceasingly. Just like the Supreme Tao spirit can live forever, theoretically, the soul of the Supreme Tao extracted from nature can also live forever. Of course, if you suddenly use it crazily at a certain time, the short-term regeneration will obviously be affected. This is called predatory exploitation. Qin Wushuang understood after hearing her explanation. He nodded and said, I've learned something. Mi Jia chuckled and said proudly, so you also have times when you're modest. I thought that someone's eyes are on top of his head and consider everything beneath his notice. Qin Wushuang was in a good mood and naturally wouldn't lower himself to her level. He said, since that's the case, let's go to the nearest place. Mi Jia nodded and said, the nearest one is on an island about 60,000 miles away from here. That island doesn't have a name and is only about 1,000 miles away. All right, it's better to be on an island than underwater. The two identified the direction and flew away. While flying, Mi Jia said with a smile, do you know why I said that the speculation wasn't groundless? Why? It's very simple. The Scarlet Fire is a natural fire of heaven and earth, an immemorial divine fire. Its power is enormous. Therefore, the temperature of the water around the place where this immemorial divine fire is hidden will be much higher, and the boiling will be more frantic. Of course, this is just a direction of speculation. Whether there's an immemorial divine fire or not, we still have to explore. Do you have any means of exploration? I don't need any means of exploration. The Scarlet Fire is red and almost purple in color. When the flame rises, it's like a blooming parasol tree flower. With these characteristics, it's extremely easy to recognize. Qin Wushuang nodded secretly. He thought to himself, this is a miraculous creation. There are really all kinds of strange things. If the Scarlet Fire was in the shape of a parasol tree flower, it could make the surrounding water boil. It could be seen that this fire was worthy of its reputation as an immemorial divine fire. After half a day, the two passed through the vast water. Mi Jia's eyes suddenly lit up. Look over there. The shape of that island is like a sea turtle. It's there. Let's go down. The two turned into flowing lights and shot toward the island. Monthly votes are good today. If you keep shouting, it'll be the end of the month. Let's give the monthly votes a boost. How about it? To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 770. When they landed on this island, Qin Wushuang's first impression was one word: hot. Fortunately, these two were elite warriors of the Supreme Tao stage and had powerful Supreme Tao body protecting presence. Although this heat made them feel somewhat uncomfortable, it did not affect them much. Mi Jiao walked a few steps and could not help but sigh with emotion. Indeed, it's so hot. For this place, I am afraid even those martial artists at the Void Martial stage would faint from the heat, right? Qin Wushuang said, this island is at least 1,000 miles long. How can we find the Scarlet Fire? Do you have a way? Mi Jia spread out her hands and revealed a strange smile. If it were in the past, I would not have a way. However, Now that I have this, I am not worried." After she had finished speaking, Mi Jia flashed her hand and waved a frosty white ring on her hand. "What's that?" Qin Wushuang asked with a frown. "The frost ring, haha. Do you see the silver frost stone on it? This thing can change according to the change in temperature. Through this frost ring, we can roughly determine if there is the scarlet fire and where it is." Qin Wushuang was somewhat suspicious. "Is it really this useful? Let's try it." After she had finished speaking, she snapped her fingers confidently. Mi Jia took a few steps forward and started to search the island seriously. Qin Wushuang laughed. "Capable people do more work. Since you can find it, then I will slack off a bit. I will also guard the outside. In case there are any uninvited guests, I will take care of them. Okay, watch carefully for me. Don't let those stinky guys make trouble." As Mi Jia spoke, her figure had already disappeared from the island. Qin Wushuang pinched AI Simo's little nose. "Little one, on this island, there must be a lot of food you want to eat. Go find something to eat." AI Simo cried out proudly, stretched her legs, and flew away like she was flying. On the island, Qin Wushuang chose a secluded place with a good view. He sat down, and as usual, he summoned his two strongest spiritual beasts to protect him. After absorbing Ziniu's dragon breath, Qin Wushuang also needs to properly digest it. Not long after he broke through to the supreme Dao stage, Qin Wushuang absorbed the dragon breath of a 6th or 7th Tribulation Supreme Dao stage expert and even captured his spirit alive. For Qin Wushuang, the first battle after he broke through to the Supreme Dao stage was undoubtedly very successful. Qin Wushuang felt very carefree when he thought of Shu Ye fleeing in a sorry state. He realized that his personality was indeed slowly changing. In the past, with his personality, he didn't care if others were afraid of him or not. But now, when he saw the scene of those experts fleeing at the mere sight of him, he felt extremely happy for no reason. Half a day later, the dragon breath that Xiniu absorbed was gradually refined by him. Qin Wushuang could feel that the dragon aura of the immemorial demon dragon in his body was getting denser and denser. The demon dragon's bloodline had merged with his human bloodline. Qin Wushuang suddenly had a thought as he activated the dragon energy in his body. He wanted to try and see what he would look like if he dragonized. Would he completely transform into a dragon, or would he be in a half-dragon, half-human form? Strand after strand of dragon aura rose up. Strand after strand of blue flames rose up on Qin Wushuang's body continuously. Qin Wushuang's two hands joints emitted that kind of crackling sound like beans being fried. Indistinct blue scales continuously appeared on his arms. Those scales were only slightly invisible at first, but as the blue dragon aura continued to rise, they became more and more obvious. Following that, the dragon breath continued to erupt, and on the surface of Qin Wushuang's body, neat scales continuously appeared one after another. Qin Wushuang's body was pushed by this dragon breath and also floated up in the air. His entire body was extremely stretched, like a long dragon that was about to fly in the air. His aura was majestic and magnificent. Qin Wushuang looked around at the changes in his body and also sighed in his heart. Is this dragonization? But I wonder, after dragonization, will there be the magical skills of the dragon race? He did not restrain his aura, but continued to activate it. Right at this moment, AI Simo's figure suddenly scuttled out from the darkness and shouted excitedly, "Daddy, Daddy!" Qin Wushuang carefully looked at his figure again. Unexpectedly, there were some similarities between his appearance and AI Simo's. AI Simo felt the powerful dragon energy emitted by Qin Wushuang and waved her claws and teeth excitedly, resonating with Qin Wushuang. The blue light was also emitted from AI Simo's body. Rumble. Right at this moment, an earth-shattering sound resounded throughout the entire island. Then, Mi Jia's exclamation came from afar. "Evil creature, go to hell." Hearing this voice, Qin Wushuang greeted AI Simo, and both of them flew away. 200 to 300 miles away, in a stone forest, Mi Jia's fiery red figure was swaying rapidly. The one attacking her was also a red flame-like monster. That monster's roar was like a hurricane, surging with an imposing aura. With a sweep of its tail, the surrounding rocks were swept away. The rocks in the sky danced and collided in all directions. The whip in Mijia's hand was also lashing towards that monster with all her might. Unexpectedly, that monster's skin was thick and its flesh was thick. When the whip lashed on the surface of its body, a red light flashed, but there was no wound at all. When Qin Wushuang saw this, he knew that it would be difficult for Mijia to deal with this mythological beast. Mijia caught a glimpse of Qin Wushuang coming from afar and cried out, "Qin Wushuang, you can't be thinking of just watching the show all the time, right? This guy is the accompanying mythological beast of the scarlet blazing fire. If you can't deal with it, don't even think about getting the scarlet blazing fire." Qin Wushuang sized up the appearance of that mythological beast and said with a smile, "Then I will join in the fun." After Qin Wushuang finished speaking, he pulled the Overlord Breaking Formation Spear in his hand. After being promoted to the Supreme Dao stage, Qin Wushuang's cultivation had naturally increased greatly. Even if he didn't use the graceful spiritual bow, he wouldn't find it strenuous to fight against an ordinary mythological beast. The most important thing was that this mythological beast's entire body was like a raging fire. Unless he attacked with an attribute that countered it, it would be very difficult to defeat it with physical attacks. The spear style of the Overlord Breaking Formation Spear was something that Qin Wushuang had created himself. A casual spear strike was like a nuclear explosion. It directly rolled out a frosty spear light with the momentum of a dragon and snake as it attacked directly. That monster was caught off guard. When it caught a glimpse of the spear light rolling down from the corner of its eye, it let out a wild roar. Knowing that this spear was not easy to deal with, it shook its tail and scuttled away with great agility. It left Mijia and rushed towards Qin Wushuang instead. Qin Wushuang shouted loudly, "Come on!" The long spear in his hand shook again. He pointed a dozen times in succession. Every time the spear pointed out, there would be a frosty light like a cold star. These star-like cold lights were guided by the spear momentum. Immediately, the spear moved like 7 stars and formed a combined attack, shooting towards the thick back of that monster. That monster's tail was too big to dodge. It was directly hit by this cold light. That red body immediately emitted a burst of green smoke. The places that the cold light hit immediately seemed to have rotted. Holes and bloody holes appeared one after another. Qin Wushuang urged the purple cloud yin yang wings again. His speed was like lightning as he scuttled behind that monster again. That monster was in pain. It cried out loudly and made a deafening noise. Obviously, it hated Qin Wushuang to the extreme. Qin Wushuang knew that this monster was thoroughly enraged by him. However, he could tell at a glance that although this monster's movement technique was fast, it was still not as fast as his purple cloud yin-yang wings. Therefore, Qin Wushuang decided to use speed to drag this monster to death. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Mijia, which I will lure this monster away. You dig for the scarlet fire. Remember, leave me a share. You're not allowed to hog it all to yourself. After saying that, he swept his spear and shot a few more cold lights at the back of that monster. This kind of injury was not fatal. However, it could cause that monster to suffer some physical pain. However, as the saying goes, dripping water can penetrate a stone. No matter how small the injury was, if it continued to accumulate, it could still become a fatal injury. That monster knew that the person in front of it would be more terrifying than that woman. Accompanied by a wild roar, that monster opened its huge mouth. Roar! A monstrous fire net suddenly shot out from its mouth. It directly sprayed towards Qin Wushuang and directly enveloped the void where Qin Wushuang was at. Qin Wushuang laughed loudly. "Come on." He twisted his body and suddenly shrunk into a ball. Then he shook his body and shot toward the sky like a rocket. That fire net had just reached him, but it was equivalent to pouncing on empty air. Again and again, that monster attacked continuously, but it still could not hurt Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang saw that this monster's fire was monstrous and its attack power was indeed very terrifying. He thought to himself, the purple flame electric beast's fire attack is powerful. However, compared to this godly beast, the difference is too big. Unless the purple flame electric beast can enter the supreme Tao stage. Otherwise, it will be difficult to be compared to this monster. When this monster saw that its best move could not hurt Qin Wushuang, it placed both of its claws on the ground and growled in a low voice. Its eyeballs kept rolling around. Apparently, it was considering a new move against Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang locked onto this monster from afar and communicated with the beast language. I have no intention to kill you. If you surrender, I can spare your life. If you continue to be stubborn, then I will not be polite anymore. Qin Wushuang could also see that although this monster was powerful, it was obviously still in the coagulate supreme Tao stage. Compared to the thousand-feeler cloud-chasing beast that was unsealed in the illusion heavenly lake, its strength was still far inferior. If it was not because Qin Wushuang did not want to use the graceful spiritual bow easily in the rushing current valley, how could he let this monster show off until now? When that monster heard Qin Wushuang speak the beast language, it could not help but be startled. However, after it understood, it was enraged, and its pride as a godly beast instantly overflowed. With a wild howl, its body suddenly stood up like a human. Its entire body rolled up and turned into a ray of light like a sharp sword that pierced through the sky. It was like a sharp sword that wanted to cut through the blue dome of heaven, a godly weapon that wanted to destroy the heavens and the earth. As this godly light rushed forward, wrinkles immediately appeared in the surrounding void. Suddenly, everything was torn apart and formed a whirlpool that expanded outwards. The color of the heaven and the earth instantly changed. Qin Wushuang was secretly in awe. He knew that this was this monster's ultimate move. The purple gas in his entire body also suddenly surged. The purple cloud yin-yang wings were instantly pushed to the limit. A ray of purple light flashed and disappeared from the original spot. Even a movement track in the clouds could not be seen. In the next moment, Qin Wushuang's body had already disappeared in the clouds. It was as if the distance of this space had completely lost its effect at this moment. Qin Wushuang's entire person had disappeared in this blue dome of heaven. That monster's aura continued to rise. However, when this world-destroying aura was formed, it discovered that the enemy it was attacking had disappeared. I am very embarrassed to announce that today there will only be one chapter. Tomorrow there will only be 2 chapters. The eruption may only appear again at the end of the month. However, the plan of 100 chapters will not change. Old Cow will definitely exceed this month's plan on the last day of the month. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 771. The monster was startled, but it immediately understood. Its body twisted rapidly in the air, and before it could even turn around, a divine aura was already gushing out from behind it. This divine aura was like a gust of wind, sweeping in front of it, then suddenly retracted. Qin Wushuang pulled back the spearhead and said leisurely, I'll let you have it one last time. The monster looked at Qin Wushuang with a dumbfounded expression. This guy was also very clear that its speed had already reached the limit. If it still couldn't win, then it could only wait to be beaten. Qin Wushuang was calm and unruffled in the midst of chaos, but his aura didn't change, still soaring to the sky. Dragon aura constantly erupted from his body. On his arms, thighs, chest, and back, the scales were accompanied by a faint light, emitting a dazzling brilliance. Are you a human or a dragon? The monster asked in beast language. Both human and dragon. Qin Wushuang roared and raised the Overlord Breaking Formation Spear, sweeping up a torrent of dragon aura, floating above the spear tip. Big guy, do you want to fight or fly? AI Simo also rushed over and imitated Qin Wushuang's tone in a low, muffled voice. Big guy, do you want to fight or surrender? The monster looked at AI Simo again, and the surprise in its eyes increased greatly. This is a dragon beast. It's a dragon beast. Qin Wushuang replied indifferently. Already a divine aura at the infant stage, the monster's aura weakened a bit. Clearly, this monster was a divine aura spirit beast, and its intelligence was very powerful. Judging the situation, it knew that it wouldn't be able to gain any advantage today. It let out a strange cry, and its aura weakened a bit. Qin Wushuang's aura didn't weaken, but looked at the monster with a serious gaze, and the aura around his whole body locked the monster, clearly afraid that the monster would feign surrender. The monster originally had some small calculations, but seeing Qin Wushuang so cautious, the little bit of luck in its heart turned to ashes. The monster was submissive, and its head kept nodding, and its tail swayed gently. Surrender? Qin Wushuang laughed. His figure had already landed. With a sweep of his sleeve, a divine venomous puppet directly turned into an invisible qi and pierced into the monster's forehead. The monster roared and couldn't help but shudder. After this quivering, the monster's entire body began to tremble slightly. Clearly, this divine venomous puppet's power increased even more after Qin Wushuang entered deity Dao. Even divine beasts could not withstand the attacks of the divine venomous puppets. AI Simo looked at this scene in shock. She covered her mouth with a shocked expression. Not long after, the monster suddenly raised its head and looked at Qin Wushuang with misty eyes. It walked over respectfully and said, "Master, forget it. What's your name?" Qin Wushuang waved his hand and asked. Your subordinate is a variant of the dragon beast. It belongs to the Qilin clan. Master can call me Fire Qilin. The spirit beast was honest and said. Qin Wushuang nodded. Fire Qilin, this name is not bad. Qilin clan. Although there were no Qilins among the non-nine dragon clans, Qilins were still spirit beasts from the mythological era. It symbolized auspiciousness. This Fire Qilin was a sixth tribulation condensing supreme Dao divine beast. In terms of fighting power, it was much stronger than He Xinyu. However, compared to Qin Wushuang, who had broken through to deity Dao, it was still inferior. After subduing Fire Qilin, Qin Wushuang was in a good mood. He asked, Fire Qilin, you are the accompanying divine beast of scarlet blazing fire. You should know where scarlet blazing fire is, right? A hint of pride flashed across Fire Qilin's face. Without me leading the way, it would be impossible for that Dragon Clan woman to find scarlet blazing fire. Lead the way. Qin Wushuang said indifferently. Fire Qilin hurriedly nodded. It stepped on the auspicious cloud and landed on the island with Qin Wushuang. On the island, Mi Jiao was obviously in a terrible fix. She had been looking for the entrance for a long time, but still couldn't find it. Seeing Qin Wushuang arrive, she cried out, I can confirm that scarlet blazing fire is very close to here. However, I don't know where to start to harvest scarlet blazing fire. Then, she caught a glimpse of Fire Qilin and looked at Qin Wushuang in surprise. You guys, can't we turn enemies into friends? Qin Wushuang asked with a grin. Mi Jiao looked at Qin Wushuang as if she was looking at a pervert. She sighed and said, You win. Fire Qilin, this is your territory. You call the shots. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Fire Qilin fully experienced the feeling of being respected. It was very excited. It nodded and said, I will take you to the underground abyss. Scarlet blazing fire is buried deep in the earth vein. It is hidden in the spiritual power hub of the earth vein. It is impossible for you to harvest scarlet blazing fire on the surface. After saying that, the fiery red hair on the top of Fire Qilin's head all stood up. A fiery red strong wind of divine power lifted up a mass of air. Like a sharp cutting weapon, it directly cut a deep crevice in the ground. When the crevice was cut open, Fire Qilin said with a smile, Follow me. With a whirl of divine wind, Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia, together with AI Simo, had already gone deep into the underground cave. In the gloomy underground cave, there were many tangled and complicated tunnels. When they arrived at the underground world, not only did they not feel damp and gloomy, they felt even hotter instead. Naturally, this was because of scarlet blazing fire. Following Fire Cheelant's lead, Mijia became more and more delighted. Looking at the frosty white ring on her hand, she knew that they were getting closer to scarlet blazing fire. This tunnel was about a few hundred feet deep. When they reached 500 feet, the area in front of them suddenly opened up. A red glow shone from the front, causing their faces to turn red. Fire Cheelant pointed to the front. "Look, it's there." A spacious underground cave appeared in everyone's line of sight. In the depths of the cave, there was a big pool. There were no water droplets in the big pool. Instead, white smoke rose in spirals. The white smoke shrouded the place, making it appear very misty. Fire Cheelant crouched on the ground. Suddenly, it breathed out a heat wave, blowing away all the white smoke. The scene in the big pool was revealed to everyone's eyes. It seemed real and illusory. There was a layer of transparent crystal that seemed to be there and not. Inside the crystal, there were masses of fire. The shape of the fire was constantly changing. It was constantly transforming into flowers in the shape of parasol trees. Every few breaths, it would transform once. The situation was very strange. Before they got close, they could feel the blazing high temperature. Even when they were deep in the underground cave, they felt as if they were in a steamer. AI Simo kept wiping her sweat. Her eyes were rolling as she looked at the strange fire. "That's it. Scarlet blazing fire. It's definitely right." Mi Jiao was very excited. She pulled Qin Wushuang's arm and jumped excitedly. Fire Cheelant rolled its eyes at her. "If you don't want to die, don't shout." "Why?" Mi Jiao was a little unhappy with Fire Cheelant, who was defeated by her. Although it was Qin Wushuang who defeated Fire Cheelant, Mi Jia had already regarded Fire Cheelant as her defeated opponent. The reason was that Qin Wushuang was her comrade in arms on this trip. Being defeated by a comrade in arms was not much different from being defeated by herself. This scarlet blazing fire is an immemorial divine fire. It's a powerful thing between heaven and earth. It also has spirituality. If you make a ruckus here and trigger the spiritual power of heaven and earth, causing the immemorial divine fire to explode, it won't be a joke. It will directly burn everyone to ashes. Although Fire Cheelant's words were suspected of being an alarmist, it made Mi Jia restrain herself. The corner of her mouth twitched, but no one knew what she was mumbling. Qin Wushuang asked with a smile, "Then it shouldn't be a problem for us to extract the fire soul of scarlet blazing fire, right?" Fire Cheelant smiled and said, "Of course it's not a problem. As a matter of fact, I have already extracted it. It's just that my fire soul is not condensed enough. Otherwise, if I were to fight with my master, I might be able to defeat you." Mi Jia chuckled and said, "Even if you extract it, you definitely won't be able to defeat him. Your master still has a stronger trump card that he hasn't used yet. Once that thing is used, anyone below the Transformation Supreme Tao stage will be invincible." "So powerful?" Fire Cheelant blinked his eyes and looked at Qin Wushuang in surprise. "She's exaggerating a little, huh? Let's not talk about this. Let's see how to extract the fire soul first." Fire Cheelant said, "Extracting the fire soul is not complicated. The difficult part is to condense the fire soul, temper the fire soul, and form a systematic fire soul attack. Sigh, it's a pity that my attack method is too simple. If only I had some immemorial secret attack method. In that case, combined with the fire soul attack, it would definitely be incomparably enchanting." With Fire Cheelant as an experienced person, Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia saved a lot of trouble. Even so, it still took him nearly 7 days to absorb the fire soul. Without Fire Cheelant's guidance and help, the time spent might have been doubled. Moreover, they might have encountered dangers that they didn't know about. Mi Jia felt the fire soul in her body and felt very happy. This trip to the polar region could be said to be very smooth. She actually found the scarlet fire. Moreover, she successfully extracted the fire soul. With the scarlet fire soul, in time, her cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Thinking that one day in the near future, she would be able to appear in a stronger position and shock the 18 dragon clans, Mi Jia felt a great sense of accomplishment. She glanced at Qin Wushuang. Seeing Qin Wushuang's calm expression, she couldn't help but ask, "Hey, did you succeed in extracting it or not? What do you think?" Qin Wushuang didn't even blink. "Looking at you, you didn't fail, did you? Is your fire attribute talent strong or not? If it's not strong, it's very dangerous to extract the scarlet fire soul. Moreover, it's unlikely to succeed." Fire Qilin curled its lips. "Humph, do you think that your fire attribute talent is very strong?" Mi Jia was immensely proud of herself. "Of course, my fire attribute talent is only stronger than yours, not weaker." This wasn't bragging. Mi Jia could almost be ranked number 1 among the younger generation of the 18 dragon clans. It was inevitable that she was stronger than Fire Qilin. Of course, Fire Qilin was more than 1,000 years old. It was normal for its cultivation to be stronger than Mi Jia's. "It's nothing to be stronger than me. In front of my master, your talent isn't worth mentioning." Fire Qilin's tone was a little disdainful. "Are you kidding? I admit that his other talents are strong. However, the fire attribute, humph, I have never seen him use it. How dare you say that he's stronger than me?" Mi Jia was a little unconvinced. "Let's not talk about other things. You took 7 days to extract the fire soul. My master condensed it in 3 days. The rest of the time, he was condensing and tempering the fire soul. Do you think that my master hasn't completed it?" Fire Qilin was not on good terms with Mi Jia. "You 3 days?" Mi Jia was completely dumbfounded. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 772. Mi Jia seemed to find it inconceivable. All of this had already exceeded her scope of understanding. It had gone against the common sense of cultivation that she had always had. It had even caused her self-confidence system to collapse completely. She could be said to be very confident in her own fire attribute talent. Even if she was a disciple of the ancestral dragon tribe, in terms of fire attribute, Mi Jia didn't feel that she would be inferior. However, Fire Kylan's words had completely stupefied her. She looked at Qin Wushuang blankly, and her eyes were somewhat lifeless. Qin Wushuang smiled bitterly and said, "There seems to be no point in arguing about this, right? There's no point in arguing about this?" Mi Jia's mind moved, and her brain immediately spun rapidly. "So, this guy is telling the truth?" It's true. Although Qin Wushuang didn't want to defeat Mi Jia's self-confidence, he didn't want to lie either. In his heart, Mi Jia hadn't reached the stage where he had to lie to protect her self-esteem. Therefore, he didn't mind admitting this point. Mi Jia's face turned pale immediately. She was stunned for a long time before she let out a long sigh. She rolled her eyes at Qin Wushuang with hidden bitterness and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. "Pervert." Qin Wushuang shrugged and asked, "Do you want to continue condensing here for a while or leave?" Mi Jia didn't speak. Her thoughts weren't on this now. Instead, she said in self-mockery, "Qin Wushuang, you're really cunning. Only an idiot like me would naively think that you're really here to accompany me to pick the Scarlet Scorching Fire. I didn't expect that you're more eager than me to get the Scarlet Scorching Fire." Mi Jia didn't disguise her need for the Scarlet Scorching Fire from the very beginning. As for Qin Wushuang, he really didn't say that he wanted the Scarlet Scorching Fire from the very beginning. "Anyway, I've already picked it. Please don't be so sentimental. I'm asking you a question." Qin Wushuang was used to Mi Jia's straightforwardness and wasn't used to her plaintive tone. Mi Jia snorted and waved her hand. "Forget it. I won't lower myself to your level. Are you going to continue condensing here? I'm going to the hibiscus forest, the golden crow's nest. You can cultivate here or go back. How about we part ways here?" Mi Jia's gaze suddenly became as sharp as a knife as she sized up Qin Wushuang. She asked in an angry voice, "Little brat Qin, are you treating me as a burden?" "How so?" Qin Wushuang was baffled. "If you don't see me as a burden, why do you keep chasing me away?" They had agreed to enter the rushing current valley together. "You accompanied me to obtain the Scarlet Blaze Fire, so of course I will accompany you to the Fusang Forest. Even if you don't care about loyalty, I still care about my reputation. The Fusang Forest was rumored to be the lair of the Golden Crow and also the most mysterious domain in the entire Rushing Current Valley. Qin Wushuang's original intention was to act alone. However, when he saw Mi Jia volunteering herself, he was a little hesitant. He didn't think that Mi Jia was a puppet, but he didn't think it was necessary. At this moment, Fire Kylan interrupted indifferently. If we're going to the Fusang Forest, the fewer people there are, the better. Now, all the spirit beasts in the entire Rushing Current Valley are in fear and trepidation. Even though we haven't seen the Golden Crow, we can almost be sure that the Golden Crow has the possibility of being resurrected. This is because the Fusang Forest in the Rushing Current Valley has been very abnormal recently. This abnormality has already spread to the surrounding areas. Qin Wushuang listened silently. Suddenly, he asked with a smile, "Fire Kylan, what is the attitude of the spirit beasts in your territories towards the resurrection of the Golden Crow?" Fire Kylan was honest. Some are afraid, some are looking forward to it. However, in general, their moods are rather contradictory. What about you? Fire Kylan smiled bitterly. Personally, I hope that a powerful divine beast will appear in the Rushing Current Valley, an existence that even the ancestral dragon tribe will be afraid of. This way, our Rushing Current Valley can guarantee that we won't be harassed by the ancestral dragon tribe for a long time. Mi Jia sneered. I couldn't tell that you are quite rebellious. Fire Kylan cast away his mouth. It's not that we are rebellious, but the ancestral dragon tribe should not have interfered with the Rushing Current Valley. The Rushing Current Valley has always been the forbidden zone of the immemorial gods. No totem powerhouse is allowed to step in. Now, without the Golden Crow, the Rushing Current Valley is getting worse each year. The entire eastern polar region is almost becoming a territory of the endless eastern sea. Only a dragon clan is missing to rule it. Mi Jia did not care about such matters as she interrupted. I am not interested in caring about the future of the Rushing Current Valley. Anyways, the Horned Dragon Clan has our own territory. I'm not interested in the Rushing Current Valley. While they were speaking, suddenly there was movement from Qin Wushuang's communication jade plate. It was Bao Bao. After not seeing him for more than half a year, Bao Bao was still as excited as before. Boss, let me tell you a piece of good news. Your brother, have broken through. In the future, ask me for guidance, haha. By the way, boss, where are you? I have already arrived at the Eastern Polar Region. Eastern Polar Region? Boss, we are at the First-Rate Dragon Palace. People of the First-Rate Dragon Palace should also be coming to the Eastern Polar Region. Find Brother Shangyi and the others and come with the main dragon troop. Haha. Alright, boss. Indeed, Senior Lone is a mutated spiritual beast. Now he is also enlightened and will not be far from breaking into the Supreme Tao stage. Perhaps, when we arrive at the Eastern Polar Region, we will all be at the Supreme Tao stage. By the way, boss, how are you? Qin Wushuang laughed. I have already broken into the Supreme Tao stage for some time. This fast. Bao Bao was stunned and then laughed. Initially, I planned to show off before you. I didn't expect you to be even faster. All right, boss, I must prepare. Haha. Each stage of the Supreme Tao stage has 9 calamities. The 3 minor calamities are a small problem. The 3 intermediate calamities are also nothing. I must see how to deal with the 3 major calamities. You want to run when you just learn to walk? The 3 major calamities are still far away. Be patient and build your foundation. The Supreme Tao stage is incomparable to the spiritual martial force and the void martial stage. All right, boss, let's meet at the Eastern Polar Region. Qin Wushuang laughed and put away the communication jade plate. Mi Jia raised her eyebrow. Is it that stinky monkey? Haha. Next time you try to call him a stinky monkey in front of him. Mi Jia said. Could it be I'm scared of him? Miss Mi Jia, there's a saying that a scholar who has been away for 3 days should be looked at with new eyes. Don't look at people with your old eyes. It's another matter whether you are scared of him or not. Humph. You also know that a scholar who has been away for 3 days. What kind of scholar is that stinky monkey? I'm not scared of him. Yes, then I will tell you responsibly that Bao Bao has the bloodline of the ancient spiritual monkey. Now he has entered the Supreme Tao stage. Once the bloodline of the Supreme Tao is awakened, you should know the terror of this bloodline. Even you cannot compare with the bloodline of the ancient divine clan, right? Ancient spiritual monkey. Admiring lights flashed across Fire Kylan's eyes. Yes. Nodding with a smile, Qin Wushuang said, "It's about time. Let's go up. I must make a trip to the hibiscus forest." Hibiscus forest? Master, are you really going? Fire Kylan asked with some fear. Yes, I must pick some hibiscus wood, Qin Wushuang said. That hibiscus wood is the tree where the golden crow resides. It cannot be burned by fire and cannot be corroded by water. It can only be picked with sharp metal attribute objects and contained with earth attribute objects, Fire Kylan said with a low voice. Yes, Fire Kylan, you will still guard here. No need to take the risk with me. Naturally, Qin Wushuang could see that this Fire Kylan still had a deep fear of the hibiscus forest. Most likely, this was a form of natural fear to the golden crow. Humph humph, if I don't go, I will be disloyal to Master, Mi Jia said with groundless gossip. Qin Wushuang glared at Mi Jia. Miss Mi Jia, no one will think you are mute if you don't speak. Besides, I didn't say I would go with you. If you are smart enough, you will get twice the result with half the effort when training the Scarlet Fire Soul in this cave. Indeed, Mi Jia was extremely fond of the training environment in this cave. However, Fire Kylan said, "This cave is my territory. When Master is not here, I do not welcome a dampening woman to stay here." Mi Jia said proudly, "I'm not willing to stay here either. I say, are you two born in the year of the chicken? Why are you so aggressive?" Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes and said, "Miss Mi Jia, either you stay here or you can go back first. For that trip to the hibiscus forest, I will go alone." Fire Kylan advised, "Master, clearly the movements at the hibiscus forest are not ordinary. It's truly dangerous for you to go alone. I think it's better to wait for the main troop of the Dragon Clan to arrive, and let's all go together. When the main troop of the Dragon Clan arrives, there will be no place for me to make a move." Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. "I must take advantage of the fact that the main troop of the Dragon Clan has not arrived." Qin Wushuang knew himself well. For this trip to the endless Eastern Sea, most likely many of the Dragon Clans already had their eyes on him. Since the attitude of the forefather Dragon Clan was not clear, Qin Wushuang did not wish to do things with his hands and feet tied after everyone had arrived. First, he would take the hibiscus wood. When he saw the forefather Dragon Clan, he would make a decision. If the forefather Dragon Clan was not the slightest bit interested in the misfortune of the Qin clan, naturally Qin Wushuang would not ask for a snub. If the mutual agreement between the totem clans was only a piece of paper, naturally Qin Wushuang would not carry too much hope for the totem clan. After entering the endless Eastern Sea, it allowed Qin Wushuang to experience deeply that only by being powerful himself would he be eternal. When fate was entrusted to the will of others, it would appear incredibly ethereal. For example, if the Qin clan could grasp the fate of the Qin clan, they could easily crush the conspiracy of the Heavenly Emperor Gate. Why would they need to come to the endless Eastern Sea and take a roundabout route? Everything was illusory. Only strength, only one's own power was the most real. Although Mi Jia was berated by Qin Wushuang, she knew clearly that it was not because Qin Wushuang was being unreasonable, but because he did not want her to get involved. In fact, although this man's tone was repulsive, his starting point was not bad. Therefore, although she was depressed, she did not retort. "Fire Kylan, if I get delayed or something happens during my trip to the hibiscus forest, when my two friends come, help me. When my two friends come, you have to take care of them. Don't let them be bullied." At the rushing current valley, I believe you have this ability, right? Feeling agitated, Fire Kylan vowed solemnly, "Master, if I can't even take care of this little matter, I would have lived for thousands of years in vain. Not to mention other things on this island. Even if it's the forefather Dragon Clan, they must not provoke me. Or else, I will make them suffer." To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 773. Mi Jia could not dissuade Qin Wushuang and could only shut her mouth. She opened the map with a straight face. Young Qin, it's your loss if you don't let me go. You are heartless, but I cannot be unjust. Look carefully. The hibiscus forest is at this location. Remember, to enter the hibiscus forest, you must pay attention to the flight path. This was the only route that could be used to fly. If you don't enter this path, even if you deviate a little, most likely you will be swallowed by the various mysterious whirlpools of the hibiscus forest. That place is the easternmost land of the Tianxian land. The terrain is extremely strange. There are countless unknown traps and natural whirlpools that are impossible to guard against. This time, Fire Kylan did not talk back strangely. Instead, it agreed, "Yes, master. Surrounding the hibiscus forest, there are many whirlpools. In the immemorial legends, it is rumored that there are extremely strange magnetic fields at the crack between heaven and earth. Those whirlpools are rumored to be space cracks. Once you get sucked into the space crack, even Supreme Tao warriors will die for sure." Clearly, these two were not exaggerating to scare him. Qin Wushuang nodded and said, "All right, I understand. All right, I will not joke with my life. Just pray that I will not get hit by the golden crow, right? As for the space cracks, I will pay attention to them." Fire Kylan reminded him again and again, "You must not pursue speed excessively. Be careful with each step. The absorption whirlpool of the space crack is truly powerful. In the rushing current valley, many spiritual beasts have explored the hibiscus forest. However, at least 60 to 70% of the spiritual beasts were swallowed by the space whirlpool. Brat Qin, I'm not joking with you. Unless you have the power to soar to the Galaxia, or else, if you get rolled into the space whirlpool, there's only one word for it: death. Even elite warriors at the genuine Supreme Tao stage have less than 30% chance of surviving in the space whirlpool. Transformation Supreme Tao stage have less than 10%. For those at the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage, they will die for sure. Only those at the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage that soars to the Galaxia and surpasses the rules of the land can ignore the space whirlpool. Do you understand? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang felt apprehensive. He nodded and said with a smile, "Don't threaten me anymore. It's enough for me to know. In general, I'll be extra careful. Just wait for my good news." After leaving the island, Qin Wushuang headed east. Following Micah's instructions, he sped away. In the evening, Qin Wushuang was already near the legendary Fusang Forest. Looking from afar, the eye-catching green forest looked very unique in this vast body of water. Qin Wushuang estimated that it was less than 100 miles away. Qin Wushuang slowed down. Following the precise trajectory, he slowly flew into the passageway of the Fusang Forest. Despite this fact, Qin Wushuang could still feel that the surrounding space had produced an extremely strong sense of distortion. Even for someone as strong as Qin Wushuang, under this airflow, he felt somewhat difficult to withstand. Qin Wushuang didn't even dare to think about how strong the devouring force of the airflow would be if he deviated from it. Gliding carefully, Qin Wushuang only entered the inner part of the Fusang Forest when night fell completely. This Fusang Forest was also on an island. This island stretched for thousands of miles, as if there was nothing else other than the Fusang Forest. As Qin Wushuang looked at this miraculous place, he also felt deeply moved. Is this the legendary place where the sun rises? Looking at the fat leaves of the Fusang Forest, Qin Wushuang was deep in thought. And in this rushing current valley, almost everything was very special. Qin Wushuang's impression was that even at night, the visibility in the rushing current valley was almost the same as during the day. The body of water outside the island emitted a red light. Below the layers of dense red mist, there was boiling water. Qin Wushuang didn't hesitate. With a pull, he pulled out the violet sun sword that he hadn't used for a long time. The violet sun sword's attribute was metal, which restrained wood. Qin Wushuang knew that for this hibiscus wood, it was neither hard nor soft. Yet, it possessed clear characteristics of the wood attribute. Its vitality was exuberant, which symbolized prosperity. With a flash of sword light, Qin Wushuang had already swept down 3 moderate branches. Qin Wushuang didn't stand on ceremony. Since he was here, he would collect more so that he wouldn't have to run around in the future. Therefore, he didn't stand on ceremony at all and collected dozens of branches in one go. The storage ring itself was made of stone and jade, and its attribute was also of the earth attribute. It was definitely no problem for it to contain the Fusang forest. Qin Wushuang put the Fusang forest away. He also felt a little incredulous. So smooth? It's a little beyond my imagination. Qin Wushuang more or less felt a little strange. Logically speaking, this Fusang forest was rumored to be so magical. It shouldn't be so easy. This was simply a feeling of coming and going freely and taking as he wished. This made Qin Wushuang wonder if it was a little too smooth. The smoother things were, the more uneasy Qin Wushuang felt. He faintly felt that something was wrong. What he could be sure of was that there was no problem with these Fusang trees. Then where was the problem? A trace of uneasiness flitted across Qin Wushuang's heart. An indescribable sense of crisis immediately filled Qin Wushuang's mind with vigilance. This Fusang forest is the old nest of the golden crow. Now that the golden crow doesn't exist in the world, could there be other dangers in this Fusang forest? As Qin Wushuang thought so, his heart thumped. He couldn't help but pull the graceful spiritual bow in his hand. In this kind of place, Qin Wushuang didn't dare to be negligent. The outside world described this place as a hell on earth, so there must be something special about it. There was no danger for the time being, but it didn't mean that the danger wouldn't appear. On the contrary, the calmer the appearance, the more likely it was that there were hidden dangers. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang sensed that the originally calm Fusang forest beside him, inadvertently, there was a trace of movement and a slight rustling sound. Not good. Qin Wushuang's mind was like lightning. He immediately sensed a trace of subtlety. Just when he was attentively alert, an inconceivable scene happened. All the Fusang trees around him suddenly started to shake. These trees, as if they had legs underneath, started to move at a high speed. What's going on? Qin Wushuang was shocked. He had seen many strange things, but it was the first time he had seen such a strange thing. These trees were like a group of soldiers burning with anger. They were waving the sharp weapons in their hands and demonstrating to Qin Wushuang. Damn it! An old voice came. Following that, waves of sound waves rose and fell in this forest, forming waves of sound waves that rose and fell unceasingly. This sound wave spread out and swayed back, forming endless echoes. Faintly, these Fusang trees, as if they were given life, glowed with infinite vitality. Suddenly, the nearest big tree to Qin Wushuang directly swept towards Qin Wushuang. That branch was like a very dexterous arm, sweeping out a powerful force. Qin Wushuang was swept by this force. Suddenly, as if he was attacked by a strong gust of wind, he took a step and avoided it. That branch was indeed very strange. It actually lengthened on the spot, like a rope, and wrapped around Qin Wushuang's waist directly. Now, Qin Wushuang realized that indeed, this hibiscus would possess intelligence. Once a divine treasure, even a plant, became a spirit, it would be full of spirituality, which was completely equivalent to a human life or a beast life. Qin Wushuang looked at the surrounding Fusang trees, which were squeezing over in a dark mass. He knew that these Fusang trees were no small matter. If he was squeezed by them in this place, the countless branches were equivalent to thousands of arms and thousands of ropes, which were enough to form an inescapable net and completely tie him up. Therefore, Qin Wushuang did not have time to think carefully at all. He directly soared into the sky and went up. He tried to win by height, but unexpectedly, Qin Wushuang could fly, and the extension ability of the Fusang trees was not bad at all. Before Qin Wushuang reached the top, countless tender green branches emerged from the Fusang trees and directly weaved a dense giant net in the air, which directly wrapped Qin Wushuang's space in the air. Qin Wushuang twisted his waist in the air. Finally, he did not hit the net. His speed was also very fast. He stabbed diagonally, intending to penetrate through the cracks. However, these Fusang trees were indeed full of spirituality. Without waiting for Qin Wushuang to fly out diagonally, countless long vines had already lined up very consciously. Like weaving a fence, they weaved tightly and directly sealed all the cracks in the space. Qin Wushuang secretly cursed his bad luck. His body fell like 1,000 pounds and landed on the ground. With a flash of yellow light, the Earth Escape technique was activated. Unexpectedly, before the Earth Escape technique was completely activated, the yellow light was immediately swallowed by the green gas emitted by the Fusang trees. What restrains Earth? Among the 5 elements, the wood element restrains the earth element the most. The Earth Escape technique was directly swallowed by the strong energy of the wood element. Qin Wushuang sadly discovered that there was no way to go up to heaven and no way to go down to earth. With a stern gaze, he raised the graceful spiritual bow in his hand and muttered, "Even in the nest of the golden crow, I can only use this graceful spiritual bow." As he poured the power in his arm, the graceful spiritual bow was already opened. At this moment, the vines from all directions, like countless tentacles, extended over continuously. All of them wrapped around Qin Wushuang's body. Qin Wushuang secretly cursed. In the next moment, his body was directly suspended in the air. He didn't even have the chance to activate the graceful spiritual bow before he was directly locked by the magical formation of the Fusang trees. Qin Wushuang was shocked. He struggled a few times, but he couldn't break free from the entanglement of the countless vines. He urged his divine power fiercely, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reaction at all. Abnormal. This Fusang forest is indeed abnormal. Qin Wushuang secretly cursed, but he no longer impulsively wasted his power. It seemed that he could only use his wits and not his strength. Even though he was in danger, Qin Wushuang didn't panic. Although the vines were agile and had a kind of skillful power, in terms of lethality, they obviously didn't have too much ferocity. For the time being, he didn't have to worry about the safety of his life. Qin Wushuang's heart calmed down a little, and he started to think of a way to escape. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 774. Luckily, the graceful spiritual bow was hanging on his arm and was not lost. Qin Wushuang counted carefully. There were at least 300 to 400 tree vines wrapped around his body. These 300 to 400 tree vines were like 300 to 400 arms with the power of the Supreme Tao holding him in place. No wonder he was unable to break free, even when he tried his best. There was no reaction at all. A Supreme Tao elite warrior, facing 300 to 400 Supreme Tao powers, naturally had no way to do anything. Qin Wushuang did not waste his physical strength. Instead, he sensed the characteristics of these tree vines. Qin Wushuang realized that these Fusang trees were different after all. There were about a dozen of these trees that were wrapped around him. They were much bigger than the other trees. Moreover, they were obviously divine trees that had achieved the Supreme Tao. As for the other Fusang trees, they were obviously weaker. They were only used to strengthen the momentum. To Qin Wushuang, they were not much of a threat. However, these Fusang trees had a lot of branches. Each divine tree had at least a dozen tree vines and branches. The binding power was extremely terrifying. Unless Qin Wushuang could take care of these dozen divine trees completely, or else it would be extremely difficult to get out of this trap. Fortunately, these divine trees themselves were not very aggressive. Although they had trapped Qin Wushuang, they did not launch a fatal attack. Despite this case, that endless power caused Qin Wushuang's corporeal body to feel the greatest impact. Involuntarily, Qin Wushuang channeled the dragon breath and divine power from his entire body to resist. In the latter half of the night, Qin Wushuang realized that no matter how he urged his power, he was unable to suppress the power of these dozens of divine trees. Although the power of these divine trees was the kind of gentle invasion that would last for a long time, even so, when they were stacked together, it was still a big threat to Qin Wushuang. What should I do? Qin Wushuang's mind was not in a mess. After the initial struggle, Qin Wushuang was completely awake. He was only considering how to break free now. There was always a way out. He believed that there was definitely a way. It was just that he could not find it. Wait for the main force of the Dragon Clan to arrive. That would take at least 3 to 5 days. Within these 3 to 5 days, who could guarantee that there wouldn't be any accidents? Furthermore, it wouldn't be nice for the Dragon Clan to see my predicament. The most important thing was that the graceful spiritual bow was hanging on my arm. At this moment, even if I wanted to put it away, it would not be easy. If the person who came in first wasn't an acquaintance and had evil intentions, it would be very bad. I'm a live target now. If an enemy comes and wants to kill me, I'm afraid they won't even bat an eyelid, right? Naturally, Qin Wushuang would not choose to sit and wait for death. Even if I rely on my own strength to break free from the shackles of this divine tree, it's still not very possible. Only if my strength explodes and I enter the Transformation Supreme Tao stage will I have a glimmer of hope. This was obviously not possible. Not to mention that one needs to go through the 9 tribulations to enter the Transformation Supreme Tao stage. Even without the 9 tribulations, the breakthrough of the Supreme Tao stage is not something that can be done overnight. This possibility could be completely eliminated. Qin Wushuang went through all the possibilities one by one. The first to be eliminated were those that were not feasible. That which Mi Jiao was right. If I had known this earlier, it wouldn't have been a bad thing to bring her here. As long as one of the two of them can free their hands and feet, they can break free. After all, although the attack of this tree vine is powerful, its defense is not strong. Qin Wushuang knew the characteristics of the hibiscus tree very well. Mi Jiao? Suddenly, Qin Wushuang thought of something. In the end, what was it? Qin Wushuang suddenly felt that the thought was floating around the top of his head, but he couldn't catch it. What clues are there with Mi Jiao? Qin Wushuang firmly grasped this thought and didn't let it slip away. AI Simo, it's so far away. Without the communication jade token, it's obviously impossible to let them know. The communication jade token is inconvenient, but I can't activate it. When AI Simo set off, she stayed with Mi Jiao. Now, it seemed that it was a big mistake. Her hands and feet were tied up, and she couldn't even make hand gestures. Naturally, she couldn't use these communication tools. Otherwise, there was no need to go through so much trouble. She could just take out the sealing scroll and summon the seal beast. Qin Wushuang felt helpless, thinking, I can only blame myself for being too prejudiced against that witch. Otherwise, if she came, AI Simo would definitely come too. Even if that witch Mi Jiao was tied up, Imoer's body is small and agile. She would definitely be able to escape. If Imoa wasn't tied up, she would definitely be able to get rid of me today. That fellow Fire Kylan is too afraid of the Golden Crow. It definitely wouldn't dare to come. Fire Kylan, that's right, it's Fire Kylan. Fire Kylan is the accompanying guardian beast of the Scarlet Flame. That's right, I can absorb the essence of the Scarlet Flame to form the Scarlet Flame soul and condense it. This hibiscus tree is also an ancient god tree. Can't I absorb its essence and condense the god tree's soul? That's right, that's it. As he thought of this, Qin Wushuang's thoughts instantly became clear. His mood instantly became better. He knew that this method of his would definitely work. If he could absorb the Scarlet Flame, then why couldn't he absorb the god tree's essence of the hibiscus tree? The power of Deep North technique could swallow the heavens and swallow the earth, absorbing everything. At the start, Mi Jiao was still jealous, feeling that Qin Wushuang's fire element talent was higher than hers. He actually only took 3 days to condense the fire soul. What she didn't know was that although Qin Wushuang's fire element talent was high, but when he absorbed it, he also benefited from the power of Deep North technique. Without the help of this technique, he wouldn't have been able to absorb the essence of the fire soul so quickly. Thinking of this, Qin Wushuang didn't hesitate anymore and started to use the power of Deep North technique in an orderly manner. When he tried it, indeed, Qin Wushuang felt a surge of subtle power had been pulled into his dantian. Haha, as expected, I really messed up in the midst of being busy. In the past, when the enemy's weapon got close to my body, I used the power of Deep North technique to fight against it. Now, the enemy has changed to a tree. How could I forget about the power of Deep North technique? Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. He also knew in his heart that he had a fixed mindset, thinking that the power of Deep North technique was a technique to absorb other people's power. However, he didn't expect that the power of Deep North technique also had a unique advantage in absorbing the spiritual power of heaven and earth. In this life, the power of Deep North technique had been improved by Qin Wushuang many times. In terms of absorption, it was also many times stronger than in his previous life. As for the technique itself, with the improvement of Qin Wushuang's strength, it also had the tendency to rise with the rise of the tide. After combining with the coagulated sword, the absorption route of the power of Deep North technique was actually equivalent to the operation route of the coagulated sword. Therefore, for Qin Wushuang, it was almost a walk in the park. Once the power of Deep North technique was activated, its momentum was immediately extraordinary, and it constantly poured into his dantian and sea of qi through the aperture points of his 10 fingertips. The same power from the tree vines was treated in different ways, and the results were really two different extremes. At first, Qin Wushuang resisted with dragon breath and divine power, but he couldn't withstand the numerous tree vines. It was difficult for 3 fists to fight against 4 hands, and he was greatly outnumbered. But at this moment, he used the North Sea power to absorb it, which formed a favorable guidance for the endless power. It was as if he had dredged a flood and found an opening for the flood, which turned a kind of torture into a complete enjoyment. One had to know that the wood attribute was originally a thriving attribute. It was extremely advantageous in terms of healing, recovery, transformation, and regeneration. Qin Wushuang's body was filled with the power of the wood essence and led into his dantian. It was equivalent to forging his body and soul with the purest wood power, and the benefits were self-evident. His whole body was very comfortable, and Qin Wushuang almost wanted to shout. This pleasant feeling was completely incomparable to before. And those Fusang divine trees, although they had divine senses and spiritual intelligence, were not human after all. Although the power was constantly disappearing, they were still tirelessly outputting power, neither too fast nor too slow. For a moment, it was not like 2 opposing camps, but like close comrades in arms, exchanging pointers with each other. Qin Wushuang got the advantage, but he didn't act too presumptuously. He just made a fortune in silence. He knew that as long as the divine wood essence soul in his body was completely condensed, he would be able to communicate with the hibiscus trees through the divine wood essence soul and even control the hibiscus trees instead. In this way, not only would he be able to escape from danger, he could even develop the hibiscus forest into his home ground. 3 days, after being hung for 3 days, not only did Qin Wushuang not show any signs of haggard. On the contrary, he showed signs of being full of energy. His complexion looked good, and his entire body was full of energy. Qin Wushuang had a sense of joy in his chest, and he almost wanted to roar a few times to vent it. There was a reason for him to be so happy, because he found that, just like condensing the fire essence, it took about 3 days to condense the divine wood essence in his body. Once the 3 days were up, the divine wood essence also showed signs of being completed. Qin Wushuang didn't become too complacent, and he continued to work hard to absorb the divine wood essence and guided it into his dantian sea of qi. This was the final impact. Waves of green waves, through various meridians, constantly impacted his dantian and condensed the divine wood essence around Qin Wushuang's divine soul. At the same time, outside the rushing current valley, 3 uninvited guests arrived one after another. 1, 2, 3. As the number of people kept increasing, there were more than a dozen of them. These people were all in the Transformation Supreme Tao realm. Although most of them were only in the second or third calamity of the Transformation Supreme Tao realm. If one came out alone, it might not be a big deal. More than a dozen Transformation Supreme Tao realm experts. That would be a great momentum. Even a genuine Supreme Tao realm expert wouldn't dare to be too careless in front of more than a dozen Transformation Supreme Tao realm experts. The number of people was still increasing, and in the end, only the Coagulate Supreme Tao realm experts were left. Not long after, there were more than a dozen people gathered outside the hibiscus forest. These people obviously followed Qin Wushuang here, and their purpose was also very clear, which was to come for the graceful spiritual bow. It was also greed that overcame the fear of death, and even the rumor of the Golden Crow was completely ignored. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 775. It's here. That kid's aura has been here all the way. He won't find the wrong place. Although it's not easy to find in this vast rushing current valley, it's definitely not wrong this time. Even if it's not wrong, it's not easy to enter this Fusang forest. Do you see those magnetic storms around? That's a space crack. If you fall in, you'll most likely die. These Supreme Tao experts were all discussing animatedly and did not move forward. We have to take action. We have to hurry. It said that this is the lair of the Golden Crow. If the Golden Crow really revives, we'll have to bear the consequences. Yes, a long delay means trouble. Let's go in together. Let's kill that kid first. In the Fusang forest, Qin Wushuang absorbed the essence of the Fusang divine wood to his heart's content. The condensation of the divine wood essence had also entered the final stage. This green soul essence is already very round. I could try to control these Fusang trees. Qin Wushuang inserted a trace of consciousness and tried to communicate with these Fusang divine woods. Qin Wushuang's expression had an additional smile. With this communication, he realized that the divine wood essence formed in his body was indeed operating. The divine wood essence formed a trace of communication with the Fusang divine woods, and the restraints on his body also unknowingly loosened. Human, after so many years, you're the first. An ancient voice slowly sounded in the consciousness. The first person who can contain the essence of our divine woods, and also the first human who can form a communication with our divine tree clan. Divine tree clan, as expected, Qin Wushuang was slightly surprised in his heart. He communicated with the consciousness. This Fusang forest is the lair of the Golden Crow, right? Yes. Is the rumor of the Golden Crow's revival true? It might be true. The voice of the Divine Tree Clan sounded a little old. The revival of the Golden Crow is not a good thing for our Fusang Divine Tree Clan. Why do you say so? Qin Wushuang's heart moved. The temperature of the Golden Crow's body surface is very terrifying. It wreaks havoc in our Fusang Divine Woods and seriously threatens the survival of our Fusang Divine Wood Clan. In fact, there's a reason why the Golden Crow became the public enemy in the primordial era. Qin Wushuang mulled over these words, deep in thought. However, his goal was to obtain the hibiscus wood. As for the rumors of the Golden Crow, at least for now, he was not very enthusiastic. Just as he was about to speak, the voice of the Divine Tree Clan rang out again. Human, how many people did you bring with you? There was a hint of anger in his voice. Qin Wushuang's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Then, he realized something. Me? Bring people? If it's not the main force of the Dragon Clan, then it must be my enemy. Enemy? The voice of the Divine Tree Clan sounded doubtful. I've offended you this time, Qin Wushuang said. I'll leave this place immediately and lure them away. This is to prevent the flames of war from affecting your precious land. It's too late. He's already inside. The voice of the Divine Tree Clan sounded somewhat helpless. Although the Fusang Divine Tree Clan is rather repulsed by humans, you're a rare human that we find pleasing to the eye. Let us deal with these intruders. At this moment, the entire Fusang forest seemed to tremble. All the Fusang trees were like soldiers on the battlefield, constantly moving their feet. They waved their branches like sharp weapons in the hands of the soldiers. Stay where you are and don't move. Wait until we control them. You can decide if you want to kill them or kill them. The voice of the divine tree clan rang out. Qin Wushuang knew that this was a piece of advice. He also deeply experienced the power of the divine tree clan. In this vast Fusang forest, it was unknown how many powerful divine tree clans there were. Just now, in this small area, they were already so terrifying. The entire Fusang forest was moving. One could imagine how terrifying it was. The first batch of people who rushed in were naturally not those Transformation Supreme Dao experts. Transformation Supreme Dao experts were all the bosses of a region. Their scheming and shrewdness were not to be underestimated. It was impossible for them not to have heard of the name of the Fusang forest. Therefore, the 8 cultivators who rushed in the first batch were the most impatient Condensation Supreme Dao experts. Qin Wushuang locked the number of those cultivators through his divine sense communication with the Divine Tree Clan. 8 of them are really like locusts. They don't want to live. Qin Wushuang sighed in his heart. However, he followed the instructions of the Divine Tree Clan and stayed where he was. 8 figures rushed into the Fusang forest. They all pulled out their weapons excitedly and began to search consciously. At the same time, they reminded their companions outside that they were temporarily safe. However, before they could be proud of themselves for long, something unexpected happened. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All the Fusang trees in the same place suddenly moved quickly as if they had grown legs. The speed of their movement was simply beyond the grasp of their naked eyes. There was a sense of emptiness under their feet. Then the ground shook rapidly. What's going on? Everyone, be careful! Cries of alarm came out. Before they could react, countless tree vines shot out from all directions like tentacles out of thin air and entangled crazily. The situation was like a hornet's nest that was poked open. The tree vines that covered the sky and the sun formed an airtight, three-dimensional giant net that wrapped around them. Oh no, what's this? Their arms, legs, necks, chests, waists, and every part of their body was wrapped with tree vines. These tree vines were not thick. At most, they were 3 fingers thick. If there were only 1 or 2 tree vines, it would not be difficult to break them. However, the terrifying thing was that the number of tree vines could not be counted at all. Even if 1 or 2 tree vines were broken, more tree vines would rush to entangle them. These tree vines were very tough. Once one was entangled by more than 10 tree vines, it would be very difficult to escape. Moreover, there were more than 10 tree vines on each person's body. There were more than 100 of them. The sounds of struggling, wailing, and roaring could be heard incessantly. Qin Wushuang felt a lingering fear when he saw this scene. He had a better understanding of the power of the Divine Tree Clan. He thought to himself, there are indeed all kinds of strange things in the boundless world. I only thought that the human and beast cultivators were powerful. I didn't expect that the plants that had attained the Tao and become spirits were also so amazing. This Divine Tree Clan's single attack might not be surprising. However, their combined attack power even surpassed most of the human cultivators' formations. With such tacit understanding and tidy cooperation, I'm afraid that only those heaven-defying formations could be comparable to the Divine Tree Clan's group attack tactics. The voice of the Divine Tree Clan sounded again. Human, you have so many enemies. There are 8 tied up here. There are dozens of stronger ones outside. If these people barge in together, even if my Divine Tree Clan can win, we will have to pay a big price. Don't worry. Those guys are the most selfish. If something happens to the first batch, they will definitely not dare to come in. Qin Wushuang was familiar with those guys. Back then outside Sunrise City, Xinyu and Shuya of the Yazi clan besieged him. Those cultivators each had their own ulterior motives. In the end, they did not dare to act rashly to stop them. However, this time, 7 to 8 Supreme Condensation Stage powerhouses were in trouble. It would be strange if those cultivators outside were not scared out of their wits. How would they dare to barge in rashly? Even if there were some intruders, they might not be the first to stand out. I hope so. That ancient voice of a divine tree clan gave a long sigh. Regardless of you human or beast martial artists, your greatest weakness is your greed. Compared to the indifference of the divine tree clan, regardless of the human or beast race, they were not calm enough. Qin Wushuang revealed a helpless and bitter smile and did not refute. All right, for those people, you will be in charge of taking care of them, Qin Wushuang said with excitement. This will not be a problem. Leave it to me. To Qin Wushuang, capturing 7 to 8 supreme Dao elite warriors at once was definitely a feast. Especially when he thought that these guys had come for him to kill and rob. Qin Wushuang felt an extra sense of revenge. With a flash, he already arrived before those 7 to 8 martial artists. It could be said that besides the Xin Yuan Mound, at least half of the supreme Dao martial artists from the other forbidden spiritual zones had come to the endless Eastern Sea. When those martial artists saw Qin Wushuang moving freely in the hibiscus forest, incomparable astonishment shot out from their eyes. When they looked at Qin Wushuang, there was an extra trace of unprecedented fear. Everyone, there's an old saying that men die for wealth and birds die for food. In your respective forbidden spiritual zones, you are all superior people. Instead of living a comfortable life, you are bewitched by the heavenly Emperor Gate and listened to a groundless rumor. You came to the endless Eastern Sea from thousands of miles away to die. Qin Wushuang's tone was full of ridicule. As he watched the fearful expression of these people, Qin Wushuang did not have the slightest sympathy. For these people, which one of them did not have the nature of jackals and wolves? Which one of them did not come for Qin Wushuang? If he were in their shoes, which one of them would show mercy to Qin Wushuang? Without even thinking about it, if it were Qin Wushuang who was tied up, these people would certainly not show mercy. Most likely, seizing the graceful spiritual bow would be secondary. When the Heavenly Emperor Gate released the rumor of the immemorial formation, it was enough to drive these people crazy. Once he fell into their hands, most likely they would use all methods to extort a confession from him, right? Thinking here, Qin Wushuang's viciousness instantly increased. With a leap, he scuttled onto a giant tree. He pressed down with his palm and opened his 5 fingers. He initiated the power of Deep North and started to absorb the power through the tree vines. Instantly, the entire body of that martial artist seemed to have been electrocuted. Instantly, despair shot out from his eyes. Whoosh! One after another, Qin Wushuang absorbed with all his power like a hungry glutton. In half a day, 3 supreme Dao martial artists were completely sucked dry by him. Their divine power was completely absorbed, and their divine souls became Qin Wushuang's captives. This Fusang divine tree is indeed powerful. It controls the body, and even the divine souls can't escape. Qin Wushuang integrated these divine powers and was incomparably pleased. 8 supreme Dao martial artists, Qin Wushuang naturally could not absorb all of them in one go. No matter how strong his Dantian realm was, it was impossible to absorb 8 in one go. After absorbing 3, he would need at least 3 to 5 days to integrate and digest. And the other 5 supreme Dao martial artists were even more frightened out of their wits. They screamed continuously and despaired to the extreme. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 776. There were still 30 to 40 supreme Dao cultivators left outside. They were all smart people. Seeing that there was no movement inside, they knew that something might have happened. In this way, it was obviously impossible for them to charge in without turning back. Although the graceful spiritual bow was good and that immemorial inheritance formation was mysterious, no matter how tempting it was not as important as their own lives. Qin Wushuang was happy and at ease. After spending 6 to 7 days to integrate the divine power of the first 3 supreme Tao cultivators, he did the same with the other 5 captives. Half a month's time passed in the blink of an eye. When Qin Wushuang opened his eyes again, a ray of sharp light shot out from his eyes. His entire aura became completely different. Absorbing the divine power of 8 supreme Tao cultivators in a row, to Qin Wushuang, it could be said that he had reached a limit. In these 15 days, Qin Wushuang felt the change of heaven's might 3 times in succession. All kinds of strange phenomena changed in front of him continuously. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, wind blew, and rain beat. Supreme Tao calamities really exist. Qin Wushuang's heart was as calm as water. Those 3 changes of heaven's might were obviously the 3 minor calamities of the Supreme Tao stage. To Supreme Tao cultivators, generally speaking, the interval between each calamity was at least 1 to 2 years, at most 3 to 5 years, or even 10 to 20 years. But for the first 3 minor calamities, generally the interval would not exceed 10 years. But people like Qin Wushuang, who experienced 3 minor calamities in succession within half a month and almost passed them without blinking an eye, could definitely be counted with one's fingers. If it was not for the fact that they were facing a great enemy, and Qin Wushuang restrained himself, it was not impossible for him to attract 3 minor calamities. Despite this fact, now Qin Wushuang was a coagulate supreme Tao elite warrior at the 3rd calamity. If he completely integrated the divine power of the 8 supreme Tao cultivators and fully activated it, it was absolutely not impossible for him to attract 3 minor calamities. Outside the hibiscus forest, those cultivators who were like maggots and tarsal bones were unwilling to leave. They were still lingering outside. They did not dare to come in, but it did not mean that they would definitely leave. Qin Wushuang knew that it was time to put an end to this. Regardless of whether the golden crow was really revived, Qin Wushuang had stayed in the Fusang forest for a long time. Although at this moment, the surroundings of the hibiscus forest were completely surrounded by those supreme Tao experts, Qin Wushuang was not afraid at all. In such a terrain, there were spatial cracks all around. There was only one correct path to enter the Fusang forest. When he was inside, he was not worried about the people outside breaking in. With a graceful spiritual bow in his hand, whoever came in would die. After activating the purple cloud yin-yang wings, Qin Wushuang's aura was completely different. Flying to the edge of the area, those supreme Tao powerhouses immediately sensed it and gathered around one after another. Those with sharp eyes already saw clearly that it was Qin Wushuang and roared one after another. "It's that brat. He figured it out." Qin Wushuang let out a long laugh. "Everyone, I've kept you waiting." Those supreme Tao warriors shouted one after another. "Where are the others?" "The others?" Qin Wushuang's tone was incredibly relaxed. "I've already sent them to the place where they should go to rest. Everyone, if you feel that they are lonely on the road to the underworld, you can accompany them now." His tone that was full of ruthlessness, accompanied by his imposing manner that pressed forward courageously, made all the surrounding supreme Tao elite warriors draw in a breath of cold air. Vividly, they all realized that the power of this Qin Wushuang seemed to have improved again. And the degree of improvement was not just a little. They looked at Qin Wushuang with eyes full of jealousy and fascination. If he were to grow at such a monstrous speed, sooner or later this Qin Wushuang would become the existence that stood above the peak of the Tianxian land. How great would it be if they could replace him? Harboring such thoughts, each of these people revealed a ferocious expression. They exchanged glances, and clearly, they planned to attack as a group. Just when Qin Wushuang was about to speak, suddenly he twisted his brows and revealed a trace of surprise on his face. He looked far to the west, rolling clouds with a majestic, imposing manner. It was as if a giant hole had suddenly appeared on the horizon. It was as if divine soldiers were descending from the sky. That imposing manner could almost cover the sky and the sun, causing the sun and moon to lose their light. Like a wave, the incomparably powerful dragon breath gushed over madly. The main force of the Dragon Clan is here. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was moved. Immediately, he sensed something. When he looked at the observant finger jade plate, indeed, he saw those familiar people rolling over. At this moment, the communication jade plate also transmitted a strange movement. Boss, we have already arrived at the Russian Current Valley and regrouped with Fire Kylan. The main force of the Dragon Clan is already rushing to the Hibiscus Forest. They are not letting us follow. Boss, you must be careful. Bao Bao's tone sounded somewhat anxious. Qin Wushuang smiled. Indeed, they had come. However, he immediately felt somewhat suspicious. Why did the Dragon Clan not allow Bao Bao and the others to follow? It seemed that the Dragon Clan did not want people from other forbidden spiritual zones to get involved with the matters at the endless Eastern Sea. When those surrounding supreme Dao martial artists sensed the approach of this powerful dragon breath, each of their complexion changed drastically. They looked at each other and saw deep fear from each other's eyes. At this moment, a martial artist with a relatively calm head suddenly roared, "It must be the main force of the Dragon Clan." Main force of the Dragon Clan? What should we do? We are guests from afar. They should not do anything to us, right? Humph, that's hard to say. The Dragon Clan of the endless Eastern Sea has always been tyrannical. Although us foreign martial artists are not afraid of them, if the totem forefather Dragon Clan makes a move, even if we join forces, our chances of winning will be minimal. The martial artists here came from other major forbidden spiritual zones. In fact, there are many of them. However, compared to the powerful camp of the entire Dragon Clan, clearly they paled in comparison. Most importantly, for the Dragon Clan, the main force leading the team was the Forefather Dragon Clan. The Forefather Dragon Clan was a totem powerhouse. Their powerful aspects were incomparable to ordinary dragon clans. Could it be that the Dragon Clan also could not hold back and came for this kid? It's not impossible. Darn it, after delaying for so long, in the end, the main force of the Dragon Clan has arrived. What should we do? Escape? Although this Russian Current Valley was gigantic, clearly the escape route had been locked down by the Dragon Clan. Additionally, once the main force of the Dragon Clan arrived, how could they escape from the territory of the endless Eastern Sea? While they were hesitating, the main force of the Dragon Clan had already approached within a few hundred miles. The patriarch of the totem Forefather Dragon Clan, the Golden Ray Dragon King, had brought a few elite warriors of the totem clan. Elite warriors of the 18 dragon clans had already pressed forward. When Qin Wushuang saw such disposition of forces, he was not in a rush to break through the siege. Since the main force of the Dragon Clan had arrived, most likely this group of people would not have the guts to behave atrociously. In a moment, between the spurting of clouds and mist, the heavens and earth became dim. Like a series of shooting stars, the elite warriors of the Dragon Clan kept shooting forward. There were more than 100 elite warriors of various sizes. Almost all of the older ones were at the Supreme Dao stage. Half of the young elite warriors were elite warriors close to the Supreme Dao stage. Among the crowd, the husband and wife Shang Yi and Su Mi did not stand out. However, they revealed the most anxious expression. Since the Coil Dragon Clan had this relationship with Qin Wushuang, they were somewhat worried. For the Horn Dragon Clan, Mi Jia had already returned to the team. She was with the elite warriors of the Horn Dragon Clan. However, between her brows, vividly there were some worried expressions. For other people, such as Iqian, the good-for-nothing son of the Pulao clan, was also among the ranks. Shuya of the Jackal Wolf clan shot a fierce look at Mi Jia from time to time with an unfriendly expression. In addition, due to the relationship with He Xinyu, the Cheonyo clan was gnashing their teeth in anger. For the Winged Dragon, Crocodile Dragon, and Hornless Dragon clans, 5 Supreme Dao elite warriors had gone missing. Now, naturally, this debt was counted on Qin Wushuang's head. Although the other dragon clans felt that this matter was not related to them. Considering the exclusionary nature of the Dragon Clan, of course they were more hostile than friendly. If the Forefather Dragon Clan was not present, they would have already flipped out. Now, those 30 to 40 martial artists from the other forbidden spiritual zones had formed a group and gathered together. At this moment, regardless of whether they held grudges in the past, they all stood in the same camp with mutual understanding. When facing the domineering power of the Dragon Clan, this group of martial artists also felt apprehensive inwardly. Behind the Golden Ray Dragon King's graceful and luxurious appearance, his movements carried a burst of aggressiveness that was different from human martial artists. The few totem elite warriors behind the Golden Ray Dragon King glared at this group of foreign martial artists with cold and ruthless eyes. Clearly, they were incredibly displeased. "It's an honor to meet your majesty, Dragon King." Each of the martial artists on this side adopted a humble posture as they bowed. The Golden Ray Dragon King said lightly, "Everyone, when did our endless Eastern Sea become your battlefield? If I remember correctly, each major forbidden spiritual zones do not interfere with each other. Individual martial artists often come and go. However, for such a large group of people to pass through, this should be the first time, right? Could it be that you feel that the threshold of my endless Eastern Sea is too low and that you can come and go as you please?" When those martial artists heard the words of the Golden Ray Dragon King, each of them felt apprehensive inwardly. They knew that most likely it would not be easy to get away with today's matter. When a number one elite warrior of the Endless Eastern Sea spoke, the entire Endless Eastern Sea would tremble. "Your Majesty, we never meant to look down on the Endless Eastern Sea. Yes, Your Majesty, the Endless Eastern Sea is a valiant existence among the 5 major forbidden spiritual zones. Regardless of our courage, we would not dare to act wildly at the Endless Eastern Sea. Please calm down, Your Majesty." Instead of getting angry, the Golden Ray Dragon King laughed. "According to your words, you crossed the border without permission and did whatever you want in the territory of the Endless Eastern Sea. This is not called acting wildly, right?" Each of these martial artists felt as if a deer had struck their hearts as they felt restless. Under the pressure of the Golden Ray Dragon King, even if they wanted to explain, no one could muster the courage. As Qin Wushuang observed in secret, he was also endlessly shocked inwardly. The power of this Golden Ray Dragon King was the same as the head chief Wang Chan he saw at the Illusion Heavenly Lake. He gave him an unfathomable feeling. He was as boundless and mysterious as the Milky Way one could see when they raised their head. Suddenly, the gaze of the Golden Ray Dragon King turned apprehensive as he shot towards the direction of the hibiscus forest. He said with an indifferent tone, "Little guy from the Xianyuan Mound, you can also come out." When Qin Wushuang's whereabouts were exposed by the Golden Ray Dragon King, he was shocked inwardly. Yet, he knew that he had nowhere to hide. He could only initiate the purple cloud in yang wings and fly out of the hibiscus forest. He dropped to the front of the path to enter the hibiscus forest and no longer approached it. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 777. Golden Ray Dragon King's fierce gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the galaxy and see through all the profound mysteries of the universe. It seemed to shoot directly into the deepest part of Qin Wushuang's heart. He stopped for a moment on Qin Wushuang and said with an indifferent tone, "It's been at least 1,000 years since a devilish young man like you has appeared in the Xianyuan Mound." After a pause, he added, "Including the totem disciples." Initially, it was an incredibly honorable thing to receive a compliment from the Golden Ray Dragon King. However, under this situation, Qin Wushuang's mood was as calm as an ancient well. Not a single ripple had emerged. He knew that now was not the time to be cocky and proud. On the contrary, other people were endlessly shocked when they heard the words of the Golden Ray Dragon King. Including Long Debeo of the Coiled Dragon Clan, he also shot a few more glances at Qin Wushuang with astonishment. However, the elite warriors of the Jackal and Shionyo clans had an incredibly complicated gaze. Without a doubt, they felt incredibly upset by the compliment for the Golden Ray Dragon King. However, the Golden Ray Dragon King changed the topic of conversation. My Eastern Sea Totem Forefather Dragon Clan has no intention to interfere with your secular conflicts. We cannot give you special treatment just because of your outstanding talent." When Qin Wushuang heard these words, not only was he not depressed, he was overjoyed. The meaning of these words was clear. The Forefather Dragon Clan would not find trouble with Qin Wushuang. Although Qin Wushuang still felt somewhat suspicious as to why the Forefather Dragon Clan, who had always been xenophobic, would suddenly change their attitude. However, under the eyes of everyone, since this Golden Ray Dragon King had spoken, certainly he would not go back on his words. As he looked around, Qin Wushuang had already taken in all the hostility. As long as the Forefather Dragon Clan did not get involved, even if Qin Wushuang was surrounded by powerful enemies, he would have the confidence to deal with them. When those four martial artists heard the tone of the Golden Ray Dragon King that seemed to be easy to talk to, they all let out a sigh of relief inwardly. They all thought inwardly, if the Forefather Dragon Clan does not get involved, does it mean that everyone will have the same opportunity to deal with this Qin Wushuang? Sure enough, Golden Ray Dragon King said indifferently, "You foreign cultivators are all reputable figures in your respective forbidden spiritual zones. If I were to blame you, I would appear to be narrow-minded. Anyways, since all of you have come for the same purpose, my endless Eastern Sea will be open for once. I'll let you compete. However, there's a prerequisite that you must obey. If any of you deliberately loot a burning house and harm my endless Eastern Sea, my Forefather Dragon Clan will not care how great your background is or what backing you have. We will make sure you will not be able to return." These fellows were overjoyed when they heard this. They had not expected such a result. They originally thought that even if the ancestral dragon tribe didn't pursue the crime of crossing the border without permission, they would at least be expelled. They didn't expect that the ancestral dragon tribe would be so lenient. All of them were overjoyed. They bowed and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your magnanimity." A light smile was revealed from the corner of Golden Ray Dragon King's mouth. Then, he shot a glance at Qin Wushuang. "Son of the Qin clan, are you dissatisfied with my decision?" Qin Wushuang showed an indifferent expression as he shrugged his shoulders. He said with a light smile, "Your Majesty, I am already grateful that you are not pursuing the crime of trespassing. For all other reasons, how could I dare to be dissatisfied? Besides, these guys have been chasing after me for more than a day or two. Besides a pile of white bones, what have they gained?" When he said here, Qin Wushuang swept across the entire scene with an incredibly sharp gaze. When he glanced across the face of those supreme Dao elite warriors, the corner of his mouth raised slightly, and he revealed an untamed and unruly expression. Even Golden Ray Dragon King felt slightly apprehensive inwardly. Inwardly, he thought that indeed this kid was different. Even for the totem disciples, it was unknown whether they could remain this calm and collected when facing such a situation of being surrounded by enemies from all sides. It seems that the controller of the god discarding door, the ultimate controller of the Tianxian land, it's not without reason that they think highly of this kid. Golden Ray Dragon King could not refrain himself from shooting a few more glances at Qin Wushuang. Although the Forefather Dragon Clan was xenophobic, in the end, Golden Ray Dragon King was the leader of the Totem Clan. Regardless of his breadth of mind, height of stage, or vision, he was much more superior than ordinary people. Naturally, the things he considered were much higher and further. He had a general view of the overall situation that others did not have. Yes, son of the Qin clan, it's nice for a young man to have your drive. However, you have also committed a lot of killing at the endless Eastern Sea. You will bear the consequences of your actions. For the dragon clans of the endless Eastern Sea, regardless of whether they have a grudge with you or not, I will not restrict their movements. Of course, regardless of their choice, they will be responsible. Whether they destroy you or they're destroyed by you, this king will not ask. These words were clear. The Forefather Dragon Clan would not forbid the 18 dragon clans from dealing with Qin Wushuang. However, they would also not shield the 18 dragon clans. In one word, they would be free. As soon as Golden Ray Dragon King spoke these words, more than half of the 18 dragon clans were eager to give a try. If they didn't know that the main target of this trip was the Golden Crow, most likely these people would have made a move on the spot. Especially the Cheonyo clan, due to Zinnia's death, their hatred towards Qin Wushuang could not be washed away even with all the water of the Endless Eastern Sea. For the Jackal Wolf clan, Shuyu was chased away by Qin Wushuang to escape in an embarrassing state. With the breadth of mind of the Jackal Wolf clan, of course they would wait for an opportunity to seek revenge. For the Winged Dragon, Crocodile Dragon, and Hornless Dragon clans, due to the disappearance of the 5 supreme Dao elite warriors, they consciously put the blame on Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang looked around and only sneered. He focused his attention and stayed alert. He could already ignore elite warriors of the Coagulate Supreme Dao stage. However, the current problem was that among these enemies that were full of hostility, there were many elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Dao stage. For those powerhouses that were hiding their hostility and were ready to launch a sneak attack, it was unknown how many Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors were hiding. One must say that at this moment, Qin Wushuang was indeed in a desperate situation where he was besieged on all sides. However, Qin Wushuang was happy and fearless. There was only one reason. From beginning to end, he stood in the same place and occupied the advantageous terrain. As long as there was the slightest movement, he would immediately fly back to the hibiscus forest. Guarding the only path into the hibiscus forest, one man guarding the pass, 10,000 would not be able to get through. It was almost impossible for these guys to break through his defense. After all, under such terrain, the power of the graceful spiritual bow would increase by 10 times. With only one path, once the graceful spiritual bow launched an attack, they could only hold on or dodge to the sides. What were the sides? They were space cracks, space whirlpools with endless swallowing power. Once swallowed, the survival rate of a Transformation Supreme Dao warrior would only be 10%. If a Coagulate Supreme Dao warrior entered, it could be said that they would die without a doubt. With a 10% survival rate, these Transformation Supreme Dao warriors were all old guys. Naturally, they knew the severity of the situation and would not take the risk easily. Almost all eyes were gathered on the Golden Ray Dragon King. They were waiting for the Golden Ray Dragon King's next decision. The Golden Ray Dragon King gazed at the hibiscus forest and looked at the surrounding terrain. He said slowly, "This hibiscus forest is the habitat of the Golden Crow. Regardless of whether the rumor of the revival of the Golden Crow is true or not, this hibiscus forest must be eradicated. Let the Golden Crow monster have no place to rest and break its nest." Qin Wushuang felt apprehensive. A ray of light shot out from his eyes as he looked at the Golden Ray Dragon King. "Your Majesty, the Golden Crow is the Golden Crow. The hibiscus forest is the hibiscus forest. We cannot destroy the hibiscus forest, the foundation of the immemorial tree clan, just because of the Golden Crow's rampage." You also know about the immemorial tree clan? Golden light shot out from the Golden Ray Dragon King's eyes. As if he could see through everything, he stared at Qin Wushuang. "Your Majesty, please reconsider. Even if the tree clan is destroyed, the revival of the Golden Crow will not be affected because of the destruction of the tree clan. In fact, I have communicated with the tree clan, and they have already confirmed that the Golden Crow has indeed been revived." Indeed, the expression of the Golden Ray Dragon King changed slightly. Immediately, his gaze became vigilant. He ordered, "The Golden Crow has been revived. All of you must be extremely careful. This Golden Crow has just been revived. For sure its strength is not at its peak. However, the growth speed of this Golden Crow is extremely fast. Perhaps in 3 years, perhaps in 5 years. Its evolution power is extremely tyrannical. Once it recovers to its immemorial peak, no one in the entire Tianxian land will be able to defeat it. Unless an elite warrior of the Heavenly Supreme Dao appears and draws in power from beyond the heavens, it will be possible to subdue this beast." The most terrifying thing is that during the immemorial period, there were as many as 10 golden crows. The Golden Ray Dragon King gave a light sigh and looked at the hibiscus forest with determination. This hibiscus forest is the nest of the golden crow, and also the foundation for the continuous advancement of the golden crow. The entire body of the golden crow is burning hot. If it weren't for the wood's spiritual chi of the hibiscus forest that could suppress it, the golden crow would certainly explode from the heat. Therefore, the existence of this hibiscus forest is nothing. However, once the golden crow appears, this hibiscus forest has become the accomplice of the golden crow. Regardless of whether the spiritual tree clan is willing or not, objectively speaking, they are accomplices. Your Majesty, then how difficult would it be to eradicate this spiritual tree clan? Let's make a move together and charge into this hibiscus forest. It would be as easy as blowing off dust to destroy it. A portion of the elite warriors of the 18 dragon clans all opened their mouths to volunteer. Qin Wushuang's heart sank. He stared at the Golden Ray Dragon King and could not help but take a few steps back. He shouted, "Your Majesty, this hibiscus forest stands aloof from worldly affairs. If it is implicated because of the Golden Crow, it would be unfair." Fair? The tone of the Golden Ray Dragon King was awe-inspiring and filled with the tone of a judge. The natural law is boundless. There is no absolute fairness. The natural law is constant, and it is fated to be replenished. This hibiscus forest should have been destroyed a long time ago. It's too late to destroy it today. Yes, destroy the hibiscus forest. Kid, if you know what's good for you, get lost. Qin Wushuang laughed loudly. Your Majesty, since this is the case, please forgive me for being bold. Today, no matter who is in front of me, if they want to enter the hibiscus forest, they must be prepared to face the attack on my graceful spiritual bow. After he finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared into the hibiscus forest directly. Qin Wushuang had absorbed the divine wood essence of the spiritual tree clan and had already formed a tacit communication with the hibiscus forest. It had formed a slight connection of bloodline. Moreover, this hibiscus forest was also his only way out to get out of his current predicament. If the hibiscus forest was destroyed, he would have no way out and would definitely be besieged. Therefore, no matter what, the fate of him and the hibiscus forest had already been invisibly and tightly merged together. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 778. When Golden Ray Dragon King saw Qin Wushuang behaving this way, he was slightly annoyed inwardly. With his status as the head of the totem clan, even those few rulers of the Tianxian land would not be so merciless. Gradually, golden lights surged from his face. Next to him, golden lights kept gathering. Golden Ray Dragon King's entire body was covered with jewels and jewels. He gave people a feeling that they would not dare to look at him directly. Your Majesty, this kid is too arrogant. An elite warrior of the Dragon Clan said angrily. Yes, Your Majesty, as long as you give the order, we will immediately go in and drag that kid out. You can kill or torture him as you wish. Golden Ray Dragon King gave a slight snort and suddenly laughed. Good kid, you are neither servile nor overbearing. I have underestimated you. Pass my order, surround the hibiscus forest. Yes. Immediately, the elite warriors of the 18 dragon clans dispersed in groups. Shang Yi and Su Mi exchanged a glance, for they were both somewhat anxious. Although the Coil Dragon clan was powerful, under such circumstances, they did not have much right to speak. Before the totem decree, how could they have any right to speak? Brother Shang Yi, what should we do? Su'er, Brother Wushuang, must have his intentions for doing this. The decree of the Forefather Dragon Clan cannot be disobeyed, yet we can do our part. If Wushuang appears through our gap, we will give him some space to escape. His Majesty, the Dragon King, does not hold any ill intentions towards Wushuang. Even if we let him go, His Majesty will not look into it. I just don't know why he is so against destroying the hibiscus forest. Ah, perhaps there are some other secrets in this hibiscus forest? Mi Jiao was also like an ant on a hot pan. She had fought side by side with Qin Wushuang. Along the way, although she could not get along with Qin Wushuang at all times, from the bottom of her heart, she approved of Qin Wushuang very much. For such an outstanding young man, of course Mi Jia did not wish to see him fall before her eyes. This kid is truly arrogant and doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Mi Jia's father, Mi Luo, gave a long sigh. Mi Jia mumbled, "Father, this Qin Wushuang has saved me a few times. You can't really stop him." Moreau was stunned at first, but then he smiled ambiguously. Could it be that our little witch has taken a fancy to that arrogant human brat? There's no such thing. In this life, I don't have any feelings towards the relationship between men and women. Humph, that Qin Wushuang is just a little more pleasing to the eye than the others. Moreover, he saved me before. I'm not someone who will bite the hand that feeds me. Forget it. There must be a reason why His Majesty didn't deal with that Qin Wushuang himself. It could be seen that His Majesty did not want to deal with Qin Wushuang. At that time, if he tries to break out from our position, I will give him a way out. However, there's nothing I can do about the other directions. Mi Jia's expression flickered with a strange look. A crazed look flashed across his face. When Mi Luo saw this situation, he immediately warned, "Girl, don't blame me for not warning you. If you still have other thoughts, it's best that you don't move. The 18 dragon clans don't accept each other. If you interfere with the defense of the other dragon clans, even I, as your father, can't help you get away with it." Mi Jia snorted but did not speak. She muttered something at the corner of her mouth. Her figure dashed, and she was already in front of Yiqian. She called out loudly, "Yiqian." When Yiqian saw Mi Jia's graceful figure dashing towards him, he was overjoyed. He almost doubted if he had seen wrongly. He quickly went over to welcome her. "Miss Mi Jia, what can I do for you?" Yiqian asked with a smile. Mi Jia led Yiqian to the periphery. She bit her sexy lips lightly and suddenly asked surprisingly, "You've always wanted to pursue me, right?" Yiqian was slightly stunned and felt a little ashamed. He smiled awkwardly, but did not lose his demeanor. Miss Mi Jia's demeanor is indeed admirable. Is it true or not? Don't beat around the bush, Mi Jia said angrily. Yes, Yiqian gritted his teeth and admitted honestly. "Well, at least you're honest. That guy, didn't you always want to know his identity? Now you know, right?" Mi Jia looked at the direction of the hibiscus forest. Yiqian sighed. "I'm also stupid. I should have thought of it earlier. If it wasn't Qin Wushuang, which young man in the world would be so arrogant? Then what do you plan to do? That Qin Wushuang, at least he helped you out of trouble, right?" Yiqian was honest and nodded. "Yes, if it wasn't for him, I might have been humiliated by Hizenia that day. Then are you planning to betray your friend for glory or sacrifice yourself for your friend?" Mi Jia asked a series of questions. Yiqian puffed out his chest. "Of course I won't betray my friend. Miss Mi Jia, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, I'll go and ask my father immediately. I don't dare to say anything else, but my Paleo clan will definitely not make things difficult for Qin Wushuang." "Just this?" Mi Jia seemed a little dissatisfied. "If you only have this bit of courage, what are you going to use to pursue me?" Yiqian clenched his teeth. "Among the non-9 dragon clans, Chao Feng clan and my Paleo clan are the best. I can also persuade them. Moreover, Chao Feng clan and Xionyou clan have always been at odds. If they know that Hizenia died in the hands of Qin Wushuang, they will definitely consider not interfering." "Good, this is what a man should do." Mi Jia smiled sweetly and looked at Yiqian. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a crafty radiance. "Yes, I have to say that my impression of you has improved a lot." Yiqian rubbed his hands excitedly. "Miss Mi Jia, this is needless to say. In any case, Qin Wushuang and I are friends. It's only right for me to help my friend." Mi Jia calculated. The Coil Dragon clan and Qin Wushuang were sworn friends. It definitely wouldn't make things difficult for Qin Wushuang. Including her own Horn Dragon clan, I Qian's Paleo clan and Chao Feng clan that I Qian could persuade, there were only 4 dragon clans among the 18 dragon clans. Compared to the main force of the 18 dragon clans, they were still a little weak. She calculated in her heart how to find a few more clans. As long as half of the 18 dragon clans didn't put in effort and gave Qin Wushuang a little gap, with Qin Wushuang's speed and power, escaping wouldn't be a problem. Mi Jia thought so and raised her head. She saw that Shang Yi and Su Mi were already persuading. Although the Horned Dragon Clan and the Coiled Dragon Clan had always been at odds, this time, unexpectedly, they were working hard for the same person. It was rare for them to be on the same side. This was really miraculous. The Coiled Dragon Clan is on good terms with the Hui Dragon Clan. If the Coiled Dragon Clan comes forward, the Hui Dragon Clan will definitely give them face. And our Horned Dragon Clan has a deep relationship with the Hui Dragon Clan. Maybe we can also persuade them. In this way, there are 6 clans. Mi Jia counted with her fingers and was about to walk toward the Clam Dragon Clan. A young man from the Kuei Long Clan walked over with a smile. Miss Mi Jia, we haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect Miss Mi Jia to be one step ahead and have already broken through to the Supreme Dao stage. This is really worthy of celebration. This person was Jiang Kuei, the number 1 person among the younger generation of the Hui Dragon Clan. Back then, in the Illusion Heavenly Lake trial, he was defeated by Qin Wushuang and was ranked 2nd. It was also because of this that Jiang Kuei was also full of resentment toward Qin Wushuang. Now, after returning to the Eastern Sea, he was the first to break through the barrier of the Supreme Dao stage and successfully entered the Supreme Dao stage. He originally thought that he could suppress Qin Wushuang. However, he didn't expect that the current Qin Wushuang was even more monstrous. In less than 2 years, he was already strong to the point where he could coagulate Supreme Dao elite warriors at will. This made the imbalance in Jiang Kuei's heart even more intense. Seeing Mi Jia wandering around, Jiang Kuei thought of some rumors and guessed that Mi Jia was persuading Qin Wushuang. He walked over with a fake smile. Obviously, he wanted to destroy Mi Jia's persuasion plan. Jiang Kuei, I am not interested in you. Don't use this trick. We are not familiar with each other. If it were in the past, when Mi Jia saw Jiang Kuei's devilish appearance, certainly she would have ridiculed him. Yet now, she endured it. Haha. Unfamiliar the first time, familiar the second time. Miss Mi Jia, in any case, we have met a few times. Wouldn't it make me bitterly disappointed if you speak such words? Jiang Kuei appeared to be extremely narcissistic. He felt that since he had broken into the Supreme Dao stage, he was on par with this Mi Jia. He was highly qualified to be on equal footing with her. If you did not lose the face of the endless Eastern Sea at the Illusion Heavenly Lake and brought back an ordeal champion for the endless Eastern Sea, perhaps I would become familiar with you. For someone who has lost to the Xian Yuan Mound, I am not in the mood to dawdle with you. Get lost. No wonder Mi Jia was a sorceress. She became angry after a few words of disagreement. The battle at the Illusion Heavenly Lake was a battle that Jiang Kuei felt was shameful. Although the result of winning 2nd place was extremely illustrious, to a guy like him who thought highly of himself, losing the championship would definitely be a disgrace. Upon hearing Mi Jia exposing his sore spot, he felt a burst of anger. With a cold snort, he immediately changed his expression. Miss Mi Jia, it sounded like you were siding with an outsider. I could do whatever I want, what about it? If you can win the championship, it would not be a problem for me to turn my arm to you. It's your own fault for not having the skill. If it were me, wouldn't the championship be as easy as flipping my hand? Boasting shamelessly. If Miss Mi Jia truly has this skill, today you will have a chance to make a miraculous contribution and capture that son of the Qin clan alive. With all these people watching, you can also make me convinced. Jiang Kuei's words were also rather derogatory. With the provocation to this extent, he felt that with Mi Jia's personality, she would certainly fly into a rage. Unexpectedly, Mi Jia let out a disdainful laugh. Young Jiang, do you think I need to prove anything to you? Are you worthy? Do you have the qualifications? I'm afraid that some people have fallen in love with that human young man, right? Jiang Kuei ridiculed without holding back. Mi Jia did not get angry, but laughed instead. So what? No matter what, he is still the champion of the trial. At least he is more pleasing to the eye than you, a loser, right? The black lines on Jiang Kuei's forehead gradually condensed. With a hideous smile, he said, "Humph, in front of this inescapable net today, let's see how that young man escapes. Miss Mi Jia, don't end up with a lost chicken and eggs when the time comes." Mi Jia snorted coldly. "You don't have to worry about that. Just take care of yourself." After saying that, she stopped persuading the Mirage Dragon clan. She knew that with the friendship between the Kuei Dragon clan and the Mirage Dragon clan, she would only be asking for humiliation if she went to persuade them. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 779. The 18 dragon clans were already in formation. The Golden Ray Dragon King and the 3 Forefather Dragon elite warriors were observing the terrain from high above. One of the Forefather Dragon elite warriors said, "Your Majesty, indeed this hibiscus wood is a miraculous place. There are space cracks all around and dense whirlpools. There's only one passage. Unless we use our great divine skills to open a passage by force. Or else, we can only enter from the original path. Instead of spending energy to open a passage, it's better to use the ready-made one." How powerful is that son of the Qin clan? A mantis trying to stop a chariot, he's just overestimating himself. Your Majesty, that kid dared to challenge the Forefather Dragon clan without any restraint. Could it be he knows he has a great backer behind him? The Golden Ray Dragon King's eyes were deep and contained a burst of faint golden lights. He stroked his beard with a smile. He doesn't know. For this, you can rest assured. If he knew, he would not have traveled thousands of miles to the endless Eastern Sea. If he had asked that controller to make a move, that little problem with the Heavenly Emperor Gate would not be a problem. Then what should we do? Clearly that kid has gone berserk. If we go in, he will definitely attack us with a graceful spiritual bow. If the controller protects this kid, certainly we cannot kill him. If we are attacked by that kid and cannot kill him, how would the 18 dragon clans look at us? The Golden Ray Dragon King revealed a light smile. I have my own ideas. Oh, didn't you see those foreign martial artists eager to give a try? When he said this, a trace of a strange smile spilled from the corner of the Golden Ray Dragon King's mouth. Inwardly, he thought, if that son of the Qin clan dies in the hands of those 4 martial artists, the controller will not blame the Forefather Dragon clan, right? Of course, the best result is that kid did not die and escaped. The Golden Ray Dragon King also knew that it would be best if Qin Wushuang did not die. If he died, even if the Forefather Dragon clan did not hold any responsibility, it would be difficult to guarantee that the controller would not vent his anger on the Forefather Dragon clan. On the surface, he would not make things difficult for the Forefather Dragon clan, but secretly make things difficult for them. When the time comes to open the God Discarding door, it would be enough to give the Forefather Dragon clan a headache. As the golden light dropped, the people in charge of the 18 dragon clans went up to pay their respects. Your Majesty Dragon King, we have already set up the formation. Very good. Golden Ray Dragon King waved his hand with a smile. He shot a glance at those foreign martial artists from the corner of his eye and let out a leisurely smile. Everyone, you have come from afar. If my endless Eastern Sea were to attack first, you will certainly say it's unfair. There's no share for you. Therefore, I will give you a fair chance. You guys will fight the first battle. If you can take them down, how you want to deal with them is your problem. Our endless Eastern Sea will definitely do the dirty work of that local snake. If you cannot take it down, when the endless Eastern Sea steps out, there will be no share for you. Is this arrangement fair? Initially, when those 4 martial artists saw this arrangement from the endless Eastern Sea, it seemed that they would not have a share. In fact, he was already complaining in his heart. After all, the Golden Ray Dragon King had spoken beautifully, allowing them to deal with Qin Wushuang. But with the Dragon Clan surrounding them, how could they have a chance? Originally, he had already lost all hope. However, after hearing the Golden Ray Dragon King's words, he felt that it was impossible. He couldn't help but feel surprised and happy. They were happy that they could take the lead. What surprised him was why the Golden Ray Dragon King was so generous. Could it be he wanted them to take the lead and throw away their lives? It seemed as if the Golden Ray Dragon King could see through everything and see through their inner thoughts. He roared with laughter. From your hesitant expression, I can see that you must feel that I am scheming against you and deceiving you to take the lead and throw away your lives. The choice is in your hands. If you give up, you can leave immediately. For the 18 dragon clans of the endless eastern sea, there are many people waiting to go up. Those 4 martial artists were more or less embarrassed. Before the Golden Ray Dragon King, it was as if they were naked and had been seen through completely. For this battle, you can decide whether to fight or not. If you give up, leave immediately. I will not stop you. When the Golden Ray Dragon King said here, suddenly he shouted, "Warriors of the Dragon Clan, are you ready?" Roar. The frantic roar of the Dragon Clan resounded like the heavenly thunder. The sky and earth changed color because of it. Those 4 martial artists knew that this was a rare opportunity. Despite being the vanguard, each of these martial artists was incredibly confident. They exchanged glances and saw the eager expression in each other's eyes. Your Majesty Dragon King, if we succeed in breaking through the formation, if we get that Qin Wushuang, the Dragon Clan will not rob him? A martial artist asked boldly. I already said earlier that I will not get involved with the grudges between you and Qin Wushuang. For this battle, the main goal is to eradicate the spiritual tree clan and destroy the hibiscus forest. All right, then we will help your Majesty to eradicate this spiritual tree clan. It will be to repay your magnanimous kindness. Upon hearing the promise of the Golden Ray Dragon King, these 4 martial artists felt reassured inwardly. Everyone, His Majesty is so magnanimous. He gave us the opportunity to be the vanguard. Regardless of what kind of dragon pool or tiger cave this hibiscus forest is, as long as we have enough strength, there is nothing to fear. If we do not have enough strength and lose our lives in this hibiscus forest, it's because we're not skilled enough. His Majesty is already extremely benevolent. On the surface, this martial artist was praising the Golden Ray Dragon King. In fact, he was conveying this message to all the 4 martial artists and secretly calling for everyone to unite. In the face of the strength of the Dragon Clan, these 4 martial artists could only unite to have a chance to reap benefits in this hibiscus forest. All right, let's break through together. We can't let down His Majesty Dragon King's good intentions. Yes, let's break through together and capture that Qin Wushuang. It's our ability. His Majesty has promised not to interfere. If we can't capture him, that's because we are useless. Let's see how the experts of the Dragon Clan break through the formation. The Golden Ray Dragon King said sternly, "No, if you can't break through the formation, you have no right to stay here. Either leave or die." The Golden Ray Dragon King's attitude was very clear. All right, if we can't succeed, we won't have the face to stay here. Let's do it. My fellow martial artists, let's plan how to set up the formation and how to deploy it. This hibiscus forest is surrounded by spatial cracks and countless vortexes. If we don't plan well, we won't have any chance of winning. That's right, let's plan. We must find that kid. Inside the hibiscus forest, Qin Wushuang opened up his spiritual awareness to observe all the movements in the periphery. His mood was like the water of the East Sea, surging endlessly. Holding the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, a trace of an evil smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Qin Wushuang was determined in his heart. Today's battle is the most difficult one since I started my cultivation journey. It's even a battle where I have a slim chance of survival. Either I break out of my cocoon and become a butterfly, achieving a higher position, or I die and sleep in this hibiscus forest forever. Laughing at himself, he looked left and right and sighed. This hibiscus forest has a beautiful environment and stands aloof from worldly affairs. If I want to sleep forever, there's no better place than this. Unfortunately, this is the lair of the golden crow. I'm afraid that if I really want to sleep forever here, that golden crow won't tolerate me, right? Haha, I'm thinking too much. If I'm defeated, I'm afraid these people won't let me sleep forever here. Leave my corpse intact. That's simply a dream. Qin Wushuang knew himself well. If he really couldn't win, these people would definitely tear him into pieces and grind his bones into ashes. He didn't doubt it at all. Waving the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, he muttered, "Graceful spiritual bow, even if I, Qin Wushuang, die in battle today, I will never let this group of trash seize the graceful spiritual bow. It's such a waste for such a good divine object to fall into the hands of these jackals and wolves." Qin Wushuang shook his head and muttered to himself, "Unfortunately, the time is still too short. If I have 8 to 10 years, with the geographical advantage of this hibiscus forest, I've already absorbed the spiritual power foundation of 8 supreme Tao experts. It's not impossible for me to break through to the Transformation Supreme Tao stage. As long as I break through to the Transformation Supreme Tao stage, combined with the power of the graceful spiritual bow and the unique geographical advantage of this hibiscus forest, I have the confidence to fight even against the elite warriors of the forefather dragon tribe. Perhaps he couldn't defeat an exceptional elite like the Golden Ray Dragon King in a head-on battle. However, those below the genuine supreme Tao stage might not be in Qin Wushuang's eyes at that time. While he was pondering, the ancient voice of the divine tree tribe suddenly echoed in his consciousness. "Human, this time, you've really made a big mess." Qin Wushuang was very innocent. He smiled. "Lord Divine Tree, although I don't know which divine tree you are specifically, I guess you should be the divine tree king of the hibiscus forest. I have to say, the trouble this time wasn't caused by me. Of course I know this. The forefather dragon tribe wants to exterminate the divine tree tribe in the hibiscus forest. It's not a secret for a day or two. What I mean is you don't have to get involved." Qin Wushuang was rather honest. He touched his nose and smiled bitterly. "Could it be that you can't see that the hibiscus forest is also my only way out? Haha, you're such a strange human. You human practitioners always like to hide your motives. You're quite frank and didn't find any high-sounding excuses. This is very good. At least, it proves that you're a reliable guy. Now, let me ask you, are you interested in working together to resist the enemy?" Working together? Qin Wushuang immediately became spirited. When he thought of the divine tree tribe's combat power, Qin Wushuang immediately became excited. That's right, the combat power of your divine tree tribe is also very shocking. This stretch of thousands of miles is all hibiscus divine tree. Even if all those people come in, if all of them come in, the divine tree tribe will be finished. That voice said coldly, "My divine tree tribe's strength lies in our joint attack. If it's a single attack, it's simply not enough to fight against the human and dragon tribe practitioners. If the dragon tribe's totem elite warriors didn't come, everything would be fine. But the totem elite warriors, especially the Golden Ray Dragon King, came. Once he comes in, one attack from him can kill more than 20 to 30% of my hibiscus divine tree tribe. 20 to 30%? So domineering? Yes, his attribute is metal, just right to restrain us. As the saying goes, metal restrains wood. This is the reason. Once this Golden Ray Dragon King's great vanishing golden bell aurora is used, the consequences will be unimaginable. Great vanishing golden bell aurora? What's that? Qin Wushuang's heart shook, and he muttered to himself. A friendly recommendation for a book. Magnitude 9 earthquake. The nation's fate leaked out. Zhang Zhe, who scored several points by himself, transformed from golden scales into a dragon and performed a breathtaking life. The urban legend, Heaven Plume's new book, Breathtaking Life, Book number 1965386. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chitian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.